Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us as we made it to Hump Day and we are rocking tonight. How y'all doing? Good to have you all here. Science Bob and Friends is the big show tonight where Dr. Bob McGwier will be with us along with our special guest, Franc Milburn. And you know what? I'm looking forward to this one. We're going to learn a lot of information tonight. But before we bring them on, let's say hello in the roll call. Race fan in the gold medal position. Todd Purdon with a healthy silver. Alexander takes home a bronze medal for the first time. Mennonite Abe, Black Dragon, the gorgeous Steph Dickey. Good to have you all here. Thank you so much for joining us. Chad Smith is here. The Chad Smith, everyone. The gorgeous Samantha Hazelwood Gray has arrived. She'll be signing autographs after the show for the first time. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Emerther Aliens, how you doing? Thanks for joining us tonight. As we continue on, there's Flibbity Jibbity. Flibbity will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio. Nicola, thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. Really do appreciate it. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show for a nightly basis. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell as well. Check out our website, spacedoutradio.com, where you can check out our store and get your swag as well. Josh Casey, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you coming on in. And Jeffrey DeRuin, good to see you. And who else do we got here? Raven is Ryan. Mama Susan, good to see you both. The gorgeous Aussie Ange has arrived. There she is, everyone. The stunning Oracles and Beyond has returned. There we go. All right, continuing on. Fabster, what's happening, buddy? Paradox Fossils, good to see you. The awesome and talented Arlene has returned. And who else do we have here? Dirty Filth. The gorgeous Science Melinda, good to have you here as well. And who else do we see who is here? Let's see here. Julius, what's happening? And Andrew, how's the trucking going? Let us know, my friend, as we continue on with roll call. There's Grand Paul Holland. Reverend Keith, amen to you, my friend. R&R, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. And who else do we have here? We have, let's see here. Rooted in Gorgeous Sacredness. Mr. D.B. Cooper, how you doing, buddy? It's been a while since you've been in our chat room. Good to see you, my friend. Ozzy, oi, oi to you. Sensational Sherry, Double Tim. Nice to have you both here. There's Science Bob, everyone. The Science Bob. Gorgeous Jenny, Z Hut, or if you're in Canada or the Commonwealth, Zed Hut. All right, Roy the Boy, nice to have you here. And Richard Elmore, good to see you, my friend. Drew Morris, thanks for coming on back. Rock the Gaspar this week. He's in for the third night in a row. There he is, trifecta this week. Good for you. Greg O'Brien, good to see you. Noble Patrick, the gorgeous Pam McSee, thanks for coming on in. The stunning Thin Lizzie Borden. There she is, everyone. Oh, there she is. You cannot believe this. It's Jan. The lovely Jan. There she is. Give her a wave. She always waves back. The gorgeous and talented Kira has returned. Eris Manna, good to see you. Peppa H. The stunning Tessa. Thanks for joining us as we continue on with roll call. Will we make it tonight? I do not know. Sam Faz, good to see you. I better start the radio side here while we're waiting. I'm getting a little nervous on that one. All right. We got under a minute here. Let's continue on here. Discovering Sasquatch. Good to see you, lovely Denise. John, wreaking havoc. How you doing, buddy? Good to have you here. The stunning Helena. Be kind. I see you in the chat room. There you are. And who else we got here? Scrolling on. Science Bob dropping a 10 spot on the super chat. Thank you, Science Bob. Really appreciate that. And who else do we have? I don't know. Wes H. Matrix, welcome to our channel. And we got 22 seconds. See if we can finish this off. Hey, Carfoon Ibre, how you doing? Welcome back, buddy. And Scary Gary, looking pretty scary tonight. Good to see you. And Vash the Stampede, thanks for coming on in. Thank you, Mr. Cooper, for that awesome super chat. We're going to run out of time. Let's get your horns up. It's time to rock with Bumblefoot. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, and check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. It is that time of the month once again where it's Science Bob and Friends, where we get rid of the who, what, where, when, why, and how in everything paranormal and supernatural. It is a fun show indeed with Dr. Bob McGwier, formerly and retired from Virginia Tech University. Tonight's special guest is a gentleman who's here for the first time, Franc Milburn. He is a strategic and operational advisor, former British intelligence officer, and alumnus of Sandhurst and the London School of Economics. Frank has previously written for the Middle East Economic Survey, the Combating Terrorism Center at West Point, and the Institute of National Security Studies at Tel Aviv University. This is a smart man when it comes to talking everything UFOs and beyond. Well, let's bring in the team now. Science Bob and Franc Milburn, welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. How are you guys? I will get you to unmute your mics. There you go. And let's rock and roll. Science Bob, how you doing?
I'm doing super duper, Dave. It's good to be with you on the second Wednesday again. And we got my good friend Franc Milburn here. We got to be honest and tell people that we know each other, but we're gonna get into it deep tonight.
Great.
Frank,
I want to say hi to both you guys. I'm sorry, say again.
How you doing tonight, Frank?
Yeah, I'm doing great, guys. I'm doing great. And it's great to see Bob. It's great to meet you, Dave. So it's very nice to be here. Thank you.
All right. Science Bob, you said you have history with Franc Milburn. How far back does that history go?
So let's say that we knew each other from Richard Dolan for a while and knew of each other in other ways. So, but we spent a fair amount of time together in the Richard Dolan sphere after I became a kind of a person involved with Richard Dolan.
Very nice. Very nice. Now, Frank, you're new to our audience here, and I would love to introduce you a little bit to our audience. You spend a lot of time, the majority of your life, working around the military, the British Armed Forces, and, me being Canadian, part of the Commonwealth. Thank you so much for your service and your dedication to the Commonwealth. Really appreciate that. And of course, with Remembrance Day here now, I want to say a heartfelt thank you from all of our Spaced Out Radio listeners to you. We love our veterans around here, and you always have a safe home here with us on Spaced Out Radio. So thank you for your service.
Yeah, that's great. I want to say a shout out to all the Brit, American, Canadian, Commonwealth vets, Allied vets, and also their families as well. Obviously, it's a somber time of year for a lot of the families, for people who didn't come back, for veterans and serving people who lost their friends as well. So it's a time of kind of somber remembrance and reflection.
And let me say happy Veterans Day a little bit early, but I won't be back on again until it's gone. So happy Veterans Day to all our veterans. Frank and I we've been in the meat grinder. We know what it's like, and we saw a lot of people not come back.
Now, we should say to our audience,
that's the unfortunate, sad thing about it.
Go ahead, Frank.
No, I was just going to say that's the unfortunate thing. People go, but not everybody comes back. That's the sad reality.
We should say to our audience, there is a little bit of a delay with Frank, a few seconds. So if it sounds like there is a little bit of dead air, it's because, the internet signal is just not getting there properly, but we're going to make this happen nonetheless. Now, Bob, if you don't mind, I'm going to open it up because, I mean, Frank, I don't. But I'm so interested because all I've ever heard you talk about is this Franc Milburn dude, man. And you got to talk to Franc Milburn. This guy is brilliant. This guy knows what's going on. He's got his stuff together when it comes to technology and the military and the UAP story that it continues. Frank, how did you get involved with the UAP story? And then, Bob, you could take it from there.
Sure.
Yeah, I was always interested in UAP. I was brought up with it, really. My parents had kind of books from the 1960s, some of which I've still got. My interest in it was piqued when I was in the military. I don't know about that, I can't. I kept reading and kept interested over the years with it, but it was kind of one of those things that goes into the background. You've got a different life. You're doing different things, and UAP on first and foremost. And then kind of 4 years ago, I got to the Richard Dolan Forum, and I started accumulating info and researching it in a big way. And then I ended up starting to write about it. So that's really how I got into it. And the more I've gone into it, the more I've been pulled into it.
Exactly, Frank. So look, Frank, go a little bit deeper. Tell people as much as you're comfortable telling them about your biography, kind of where you're from, and then how you got into the military, and as much about your military service as you care to share.
Sure. I'm from London. I'm a Brit, obviously. I come from London. I come from a long line of soldiers, both male and female. My father was an SAS officer. My stepdad was an SAS sergeant. My godfather was Coldstream Guards and then a colonel in the parachute regiment. My other godfather commanded the SAS. Both my grandfathers on both sides were in the military, and that goes back like hundreds and hundreds of years of service to country. I was always going to join the military. I joined actually the reserves from school while I was 17, while I was still studying. I joined airborne while I was still in school. And then I did reasonably well. I got offered a place at university, and then the military offered to basically, make me an officer if I did university, and I went to officer training school, the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst. I was going to join the parachute regiment as an officer, but things changed, and I ended up being recruited by military intelligence while I was at the Royal Military Academy. And from there, I did, various jobs, kind of Green Army intelligence, or what they call combat intelligence, and counterintelligence. And I worked with different agencies and with different branches of the military as well, including, the Royal Air Force and the Navy, and other units. I was in the military all told for about 8 years. And then after that, I kind of went into civilian life, wasn't really sure which direction I was going, and ended up working as a consultant at one of the sort of big 5 consultancy firms, and that was kind of boring. I didn't really enjoy it. And then I started working for a private security and investigations firm, which is mainly kind of ex-military people, police, intelligence, and I kind of got into the civilian commercial intelligence world. I did some stints in Iraq, quite a few years then as a contractor. I worked with the US State Department. I worked with DOD. I worked with other agencies and units of the US military. And from there, I went into sort of oil and gas security as an oil and gas security manager, country security manager, and then a regional security manager. So I worked across the Middle East, including Iraq, as head of security for oil and gas companies, running all aspects of their security on the ground. I worked in North Africa as well, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, and I've worked in various other locations around the world, including Mexico. Worked in the States as well. So I've got quite a big range of experience and countries that I've worked in over the years, and with a very large range of clients, oil and gas companies, mining companies, FTSE 100, Financial Times Stock Exchange 100 companies, and Fortune 500 companies, right across, banking, aerospace, you name it, really, I've done it.
Yes, exactly. It's kind of a natural fit with someone with your prior experience. So just to remind the audience that I was involved in the U.S. intelligence community. I began that career with a year of working at Sandia National Labs, went back to graduate school, got my doctorate, and then joined the Institute for Defense Analysis, Center for Communications Research, and branched out all over the place. Was involved with multiple entities in the intelligence community, and just Frank and I both spent a lot of time in the Middle East. In the 1990s, I spent half my life in the Middle East, and the only country in the Middle East I have not been to is Iran. So just heavily involved. We crossed over each other a lot, and so there you go. It's just commonalities abound, and with similar experiences. And then right after 9/11, after I got back from doing whatever I was doing, I went, look, you've got a PhD in math. What are you doing, fool? And I stopped doing the crazy and went back to doing all technical, and I've done well. So then after all technical, the former director of science and technology at the CIA picked up the phone and called me and a buddy of mine and told us to come to a center at Virginia Tech named after him because he gave them a bunch of money. And so then we started this educational institution doing research and development, trying to talk young folks into working for the United States government rather than having to go off to get financial community jobs in order to pay back all the loans they take. So the way we did it is we educated them, showed them stuff, and left them with money in their pockets at the end of their undergraduate degree rather than a bunch of debt. And they could afford to go and work for the United States government, et cetera. And it turned out to be spectacularly successful. So it's now the largest research institution at Virginia Tech, and it's called the Hume Center, named after Ted Hume. So that's kind of how Frank and I got to almost the same place. And what I did was, like Frank, saw some UFO stuff in the background, and then became very interested when it started coming out. And then we just got together on Richard Dolan Forum. I went off and met Chris Bledsoe, and it just kind of went from there. And then once you go down, everybody that's involved in this subject knows once you go down the rabbit hole, you're gone. It's just, well, if you got a curiosity and you have some capabilities and some ability to do analysis, you soon get down this rabbit hole and you just can't get out. Now I don't even want to get out, so I'm fine. So Frank, look, you've done some interesting work. The first time I became really cross paths with you, the thing I noticed is you had a personal relationship, it appeared to me, with Jack Sarfati. So do me a favor and tell our audience who Jack Sarfati is, and I'll just say what I know about him, and then let's interact with him a bit, just so we get. And Jack has now postulated a physics theoretical analysis and hypothesis about how the Tic Tacs work. So just tell us about that relationship, because I always thought it was really interesting. And just tell us how you got there and the level of interaction.
Yeah, Dr. Jack Sarfati, he's a well-known physicist. He got his PhD like before I was born, right? He's a very, very intelligent man, like many sort of big thinkers of both his era and also his sort of intellect. He holds very, very strong opinions. Others don't always agree with him. He doesn't always agree with others. But he was very interesting and very kind for me. We met online, and then we started chatting, and I thought, wow, this is actually a really ballsy guy, a scientist who's not only interested in UAP, but is actually writing papers about theories of physics and how they apply to UAP and other areas. And then as I gravitated towards writing peer-reviewed work myself, on the strategic side of UAP, Dr. Jack was very, very kind and generous with his time. Gave me access to all his papers. I'm not a physicist. I'm not a great scientist. He really dumbed things down for me as well. so that I could understand, basic principles. Because I felt if I can explain what he's saying to other people in the papers, then other people can, will be able to understand it. If I can understand them, other people will be able to understand them. And we've become friends. We're in regular contact. We speak every couple of weeks. I'm on an email thread with him. We ping each other for ideas, and he's one of a number of go-to people that I can just literally, I can pick up the phone, or I can Skype or Zoom and talk to and ask questions of.
Yeah, he got his PhD in physics from Cornell at the same time Neil deGrasse Tyson was there. So he is kind of well known to a bunch of physicists. He had an interesting career in the University of California system. He wasn't actually in a physics department. He had a lab that he ran on his own doing physics, but he got into more the administration of science out of California, but he kept doing physics research. So he's an interesting character. The thing that he has postulated, and I will freely admit that I am having trouble getting past a couple of the miracles that are in the middle of his papers that would allow me to leap across and get some, but one, just kind of let me give you the big broad brush. He proposes that a Tic Tac could be run by a D cell battery, and that it's literally almost no power requires to do what they're doing. That is a major tenet of his research. And let me explain to people that are listening why that kind of makes sense in a way. So if we look at the infrared cameras that are catching the Tic Tacs and so forth and other things, they don't appear to be as bright as the sun in these infrared cameras. If you have bright meaning hot, they are pretty cold. And so the Tic Tac one that we are all familiar with that was taken by the Nimitz had white as cold. So the thing is pretty cold. So what this says to me is the thing's not generating or burning a lot of power because it's not having to throw off a lot of heat. So there is some sense in which Jack Sarfati is onto something. I can't quite make the physics connections, but he seems to have a long, ongoing argument. And I don't know the current status of this argument. So if you do, why don't you tell us, with Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis? They seem to know each other and have a relationship, and they kind of constantly fight back and forth about the physics. Where does that stand now?
Well, they're in a lot of competition. Well, not competition. They're in intellectual competition. I mean, Dr. Jack is very kind of vocal about his theories. I'm not a physicist, so I can't really judge the validity of his theories or anybody else's. I'm not an expert. That would take an expert to do that. But I know for a fact that he doesn't always agree with Dr. Eric Davis or Dr. Hal. I've seen that. I think there may be differences of opinion there because Dr. Jack is looking for funding for his work. I know that. He's been quite open about that. Dr. Eric and Dr. Hal, they've already been involved in various government endeavors, as we know from recent books and from articles from 2017 onwards. Yeah. Yes, so
private too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when they have big battles of the physicists, I just stay out of it.
I think that's the best. So look, since I left my previous job and went to the Virginia Tech, I joined this entity that was primarily engineering, but I also did science. But since I have this kind of engineering bent and applied mathematical bent, I'm always looking for how can I make something that I can test out of the stuff that they're doing. And that's where my problem is. Right now, I can't find a thing I can do to test anything that I'm hearing. Now, I want to say this in Jack's defense, and bring the same kind of deal talking about Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis. They've written a lot of papers and they've gotten a lot of respect, but I've never seen a single thing they've done being turned into anything practical. So they're a theoretical, just like Jack is. And to me, these arguments are one theoretician arguing against the other that their theory is right and the other guy's theory is wrong. And it goes back and forth constantly with the usual barbs. Having operated in high level science circles, the elbows can get very sharp.
Especially, I find that in the world, guys can really go off at each other.
Exactly, especially on the edge where both of them are like, well, Hal and Eric are still cleared, and they're still doing work attached to some element of the United States government, because you can't maintain your SCI clearance for longer than 24 months now without being attached. So both of them are still attached. We know Eric's working for Aerospace Corporation at Marshall Space Flight Center. So it's just really interesting. And Frank, please do me a favor and keep me up to date on any interactions you have with Jack, because I really would like to understand what he's saying. I understand how he is claiming they are manipulating space-time, but by manipulating two constants. But I don't get how they are manipulating the two constants. That's where I'm missing, Frank. And Dave, take us to break.
Well, with 90 seconds to go, I mean, Frank, you were somebody where I want to make clear. You are somebody who has studied a lot of varying topics and written about a lot of varying topics. And as we progress in the show, I know that you've dabbled in subjects like UFOs, extraterrestrials, never mind the entire military-industrial complex, time travel, and looked into a number of different topics. You know, with 1 minute to go here before we got to go to break, we'll hit a lot of these subjects. Is this all one phenomena thrown into a big paranormal bowl, or are these separate issues that need to be studied?
The truth is, I don't know. But the more I go into it, the more I'm inclined towards the sort of the Eric Davis, Jacques Vallée paradigm of kind of high strangeness, and that you need to look at, like the physical aspects, the physiological aspects, psychological aspects, the kind of weird and wonderful aspects. I don't think you can study any one phenomenon in isolation. And I think Skinwalker Ranch is a perfect example of that, where, you've got cryptids, UFOs, strange disembodied voices, poltergeist activity, strange lights, mutilations, people having induced fear. All these things seem to be connected in some way at that location.
Very cool. And on that note, I'm going to get you guys to hold on right there, gentlemen, as we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Science Bob and Friends, as Dr. Bob McGwier joins us once a month, tells us about not the woo, but the who, what, where, when, why, and how of everything weird, strange that's going on this planet. Our special guest tonight, Mr. Franc Milburn. We are going to rock this show next half hour. More tech talk here on Science Bob and Friends next. All right, gents, we're clear.
DB Cooper makes money in his sleep. I thought he made money by jumping out of airplanes.
Well, I appreciate DB Cooper. It's been a while since he's been here, and already a hat trick of super chats. Thank you so much, Mr. DB Cooper. And we really do appreciate you and your knowledge that you bring. So thank you so much for coming on in. Very thankful. Trust no one. How you doing? Good to have you here. All right. That was a solid first half hour, gents.
Oh, yeah. It was a good place to start. I think we'll go next to the BSEE report and the analysis. And I'm going to get you to discuss how you came to write it, the entity that you wrote it for, and why you published it there. And I think, given your association with an Israeli university, it's clear how you can make these connections and so forth, because that report is very interesting. And I'd like to get more of our more people in our audience to read it, so it gets further dissemination, and because it's readable, it's completely readable. You don't need to be high technical muckety muck to read it, because it's analysis based on evidence. And so I'd love for you to cover that thing in as much detail as you want, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I appreciate it very much. Are we doing okay on the sound and the vision?
Yeah, you're great. Yeah, there is about a 20-second lag. We just have to be careful with it. That's all.
And
But there's no
20
stuttering.
seconds or 2 seconds?
No, 20 seconds.
oh, it's not that long on my end, Bob.
Okay, all right, maybe 10.
Frank, I just want to let you know, and I didn't get a chance to tell you before the show because you were rebooting, but during the commercial breaks, our audience can hear what we're saying. So if there is something that you don't want the public to know, do not do it during the commercial breaks, okay?
Yeah, copy that. Cheers.
Not a problem.
It's 3 or 4 seconds. I exaggerated.
Hi, the gorgeous Dirt Road. How are you? The stunning Cosmic Fleur. Yes, our lovely ladies are coming on in. I tell you, they make this show look so much better. I mean, look at us 3 mugs here. Oh, my goodness.
I have a face only a mother can love.
I have a face for radio, and I'm forced to do YouTube.
Now you know why I was an amateur radio operator since I was 10. Nobody could see me.
You got to hook up with my buddy Bruce. He's all over that ham radio stuff.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Yes, I have displayed at such a high level an amateur radio operator since the 1960s.
Let me get you his, I think it's on his Twitter. Hold on. Where is it here? Vector Echo 7 Hotel India.
Okay, good. Hawaii. Hawaii.
Yeah, for me with you guys, there's no delay.
It's like 2.5 or 3 seconds, Frank. It's not as bad as I said it was.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, sweet. When you said 20 seconds, I was like, I was going to start flapping at 20,000 feet.
No. It sounds like the link might be through a satellite, but I don't know. I can't believe this. It's got to be transatlantic cable.
Uriel Perez, thank you for coming to our chat room. We'll ask questions from the audience starting in hour 2, if you don't mind. You've had a couple of really good questions. I want to make sure that we get those to both Frank and Science Bob. So if you could ask them in hour 2, because I do not want to forget your questions, if you don't mind. Hi, Sinister Vax. Mr. DB Cooper, thank you again for another amazing super chat. Wow, thank you so much. I don't know what we did to deserve that, but that's 4 in a row for you. Thank you so much. I finally learned how to pronounce his name. Xochitl Paez. The gorgeous and talented Xochitl Paez is here. And thank you so much, Dirt Road, for that awesome super chat. Really do appreciate it. And thank you, my Canadian friend, where I don't even know in Canada where you live, but that's okay. Again, Mr. DB Cooper, are you serious? Thank you. Wow. Scaring me here a little bit. Wow. I landed, I ran, and found 5K of my notes. Okay. A kid found 5,000 of my notes. Wow. All right. We got 30 seconds. And I want to say a big thank you to DB Cooper ×5, Dirt Road, Nicola, and Science Bob for the amazing super chats. Really do appreciate your love and support. And Fapster, thank you for the kind comments. Dave, you're beautiful. Don't sell yourself short. Grandma Rose's words, not mine. I miss Grandma Rose. God bless her. She was an angel to everybody in this chat room and to me. So God bless her. So thank you, Fapster. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Shirky Poo's Newswire, and check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Science Bob and Friends. Dr. Bob McGwier is here, as well as special guest tonight, Franc Milburn. Science Bob, take it away.
Okay, Frank. So when we were in Dolan together, I was already becoming impressed with your analytic abilities, and then you really surprised me and others by having your work published by the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies. So tell us how you became involved with the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies. What drove you, and discuss your work, which is quite a large volume, and how you came to do it, and anything else you want to say about it.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, the drive to write really, and thank you very much for your kind words. The drive to write really came out of things that I was learning on the Dolan Forum and in other areas, and speaking to people like yourself. And I was thinking, well, I need to write this. There's something that I need to put down on paper, and I need to get this right in my own mind as much as anything else. And I approached the Begin Sadat Center as a platform for it for a number of reasons. I think I'd written one paper for them and a paper for the Institute for National Security Studies at Tel Aviv University. So I'd written a paper already, a short paper on Iran, for the Begin Sadat Center, because their major focus for them is obviously the national security of Israel, and looking at Israel's adversaries and the kind of the Middle East and Levant landscapes. The Begin Sadat Center is a globally ranked strategic studies think tank. It is affiliated with, it's part of Bar Ilan University, which is Israel's actually second largest teaching university. And the director of the center is Ephraim Karsh, a former director of the center, because he's gone now. He was a professor from King's College, and I'd been at the London School of Economics, and he'd seen kind of, some of my other written work. So he thought, okay, it would be a fit for the Begin Sadat Center. I did some convincing about UAP. He was very, very open-minded. But once, I had the kind of the commentary from people like Elizondo and from Chris Mellon and others, and I put a case together. I think I put a 4-page case together as to why I should write a paper. And then he became very interested. Now, the people at the think tank, by Israeli standards, I mean, they're very interesting. Like their sister think tank, the Institute for National Security Studies, it's just chock full of, military intelligence, aerospace experts, and other types who kind of sit across the aerospace and defense worlds, the military worlds, the intelligence worlds, and not just Israeli academics either. And they also have a very interesting advisory board, including King's College London, John Hopkins. And that was really why I wanted to get the paper published there, because it would have that kind of academic credibility behind it. People like Stanton Friedman are on the board of directors. Stanton Friedman, the historian from King's College. So to get a peer-reviewed paper done by them was for me to fulfill an ambition of getting the UAP topic into the kind of strategic studies world, the war studies world, because this paper is going to be published by a think tank which has commentary by Israeli generals and international diplomats. So I wanted to have a kind of a seriousness attached to it, and to get rid of the ridicule factor. The 2 papers that I wrote were the Pentagon's UAP Task Force, and the second one was American Development of UAP Technology, a fait accompli. These papers sort of together, they looked in depth at the strategic aspects of UAP, the potential threat of adversaries acquiring their technology. They kind of covered the areas of, ours or theirs, ours or terrestrial adversaries or something else. I also looked at the intelligences, the nature of the intelligences behind UAP. I delved really deeply with Jack Sarfati and with Bob and with others into the technology behind UAP, propulsion, weapon systems, vulnerability to technology and weapon systems that terrestrial powers have. I looked at things like the Nimitz case. I looked at also as well the kind of the post-quantum leaps that could be accrued from acquiring this technology, the post-quantum leap in military affairs. And basically my conclusion was that, that America needs to have this if it's going to maintain its kind of preeminence into the next century and beyond. So that's really where I am with my papers. The second paper very much focused on discussions with Lou Elizondo, his talking about the technologies, and also, which seems to be borne out now, my theory that Elizondo and Mellon are looking for they're looking to break up the current system of unacknowledged special access programs. They want to fold those all into a big program. They want Congress to approve money. And I have his words of this in the paper. They want Congress to approve money so that they have a Manhattan Project 2 style effort to unite all these various programs. Because my theory is that the UAP, the USAPs, they've been hidden away for too long. Dr. Eric Davis has said that, if you have a bottleneck, you can't talk to somebody else outside the program, outside the USAP. Okay, so my belief is Elizondo and Mellon, they want to unite all these disparate programs under an overarching program, so that if there is a bottleneck, then they can get people talking to the right people and they can get an advance, so that America is the preeminent power in 2050 and not China.
Yes, I'm right there with you. I believe your analysis to be completely correct. So, and I am certain that given what you and I, and now many others speaking very loudly, including our new director of NASA, who is a former senator and a former astronaut, knows that China, they are going wild. They are about to put a military base on the moon, and they're going to mine tritium and other things off from the water on the south pole of the moon, and it is going to be serious. And I'm sitting here telling you stuff you already know, and our audience going, what in the hell is Bob talking about? And you and I both know that the Chinese are about to put a military base on the moon. The PLA is involved in all of their activities going to the moon. And you and I know this. Okay, so let me do some housekeeping first. The BSEE is named after Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat. Menachem Begin was prime minister of Israel, and Anwar Sadat was president of Egypt. And they were the first people in leadership roles in the Middle East to reach across a warlike existence and experience and sign a peace treaty. And it destroyed Menachem Begin's health, and Anwar Sadat was assassinated for it. And so these people were put together by Jimmy Carter when he was president of the United States, and they worked out a peace treaty between Israel and Egypt. So this is a very, very prestigious research center. And Frank, off the top of your head, can you tell our audience where they can go and get copies of these papers? Do all they need to do is Google and they can find it, or would you have them go someplace else?
Yeah, I mean, if you Google my name, they come up pretty much immediately. Or if you go to look up the BSEE Center, pump in BSEE Center and Franc Milburn, and the page, my author page will come up. But they're pretty easy to find. Also, I'm on academia.com. If you put Franc Milburn in there, it's got all the papers, not just UAP that I've written. And also,
that's a good place.
On my Twitter profile at Franc Milburn, there's actually a link to academia. If you just click on that link, it will take you to the papers.
I will probably pick that up and put it on my Twitter, because I don't have the same restrictions. I want to just make sure it gets as widespread as possible, and I'll make sure it goes up on the Spaced Out Radio thing so our audience and others can really get after it. Now, involved in the Israeli national security part of this, their former director of what would be the equivalent of the National Reconnaissance Office in Israel is Haim Eshed. I've known who this guy was forever, as you have. And of course, Haim he's kind of gone, whoa. And he's talking about the United States government and others are in contact with a galactic civilization, and that the many in the world know about it. Do you actually know Haim? And give us your analysis and anything you want to say about Haim Eshed and his galactic civilization talks.
I didn't personally know. I can't vouch for the veracity of what he says. But at the BSEE Center, there was another head of the Israeli Space Agency, right, who knew him. If you want, I can read the email. But basically, I can summarize it. Abihar Avon, colonel in the IDF, literate scientist. Very sadly, he was an elderly gentleman. He died in the recent confrontation, the last one with Hamas. But he was a member of the BSEE Center. He was a PhD. He'd been head of the Shavit satellite launcher program. He'd been at the Israeli Space Agency for 10 years, obviously advisor to the Israeli government on space. In the 1960s, he was going around sort of Israeli systems for them. So, I mean, this is a brilliant, very smart man. He said, I know he knew Haim Eshed for many years, and he said, I can assure you professional experts in the space topics. And this is Abi Haven. And he said, the question of not being alone in the universe, there are many opinions, theories, and rumors on this subject, many of them based on observations made by serious scientists and militants who can agree with Haim's theory. Okay, then he says, I can assure you that even in Israel, you can find people who believe that we are not, including myself. And then he basically gave me an invite to go and visit him, told me where he lived. Right? And unfortunately, I never got to go and visit him because he died.
Yes. So it's just really, really.
So I would my takeaway from that would be is that Haim Eshed is legit.
Oh, I'm not saying Haim Eshed is not legit. I know Haim Eshed is legit. He was the head of the Israeli equivalent of our National Reconnaissance Office. He built the first spy satellites, or he led the development of the first spy satellites that Israel put up to keep tabs on Iran and others in the Middle East. I mean, this guy is truly a serious player. And so I just wondered if you had heard, given your involvement in Israel, why he would come to this conclusion. And I'm going to tell you, the Israelis, here's my experience. If they feel you are not telling something to the world and it impacts them in any way, and they feel they ought to know and you're not telling, they are going to out you. And that's what I think they've done to the United States government, is they've outed what they know because they feel like they want to be involved. And can you blame them?
Yeah, I think a key point here, Bob, is Israel is a technologically and militarily highly advanced country. It's one of the premier countries in the world, right? It's a very, very small country, but they've got some serious kit, both kit that they've got from the Americans, kit they've developed from the Americans, and kit that they've developed themselves. And if you look at the history of the Middle East, since 1991, really onwards, there's been a lot of conflict. Okay, in terms of electromagnetic emissions, in terms of communication, SIGINT, in terms of military movement, aircraft movement, ground vehicle movement, there's been some serious wars there. And the place has been lit up like a Christmas tree. If you were intelligence behind UAP, you'd be attracted to that.
Oh, yes.
And if you're a country like Israel, you have the means to detect those UAP.
Yes, exactly. So, and it cannot be a secret to the Israelis. What many in the UFO community know already is there are simple signals that are associated with some aspect of these UAPs that are easy to detect. What they are actually mean, why they're being emitted, I have not been told and don't know, except I know these emissions exist and they are easily used to track these vehicles. And we interviewed people that are with UAPX and et cetera out on the West Coast on this show, and they know the frequencies because they talked about them on the air. And so I just think I have a hypothesis that I put out on Twitter recently, and it is as follows. All of the secrecy and the really unbelievable violations of the Constitution that have been inflicted on U.S. citizens dealing with this subject for 75 plus years has to be for a reason, because the cost of this coming out would be so devastating that I just can't understand it. So I've reached the following hypothesis. They know something. They know when something's coming. They know something's coming, and they're trying to soften the blow of what's coming to the point where they minimize the panic. And that's I think that has the entire thing in a nutshell. They know something. They know it's coming. The frequency of the sightings are going up dramatically, and they're trying to prepare the public without panic. Do you think I'm nuts, or do you think I'm right?
No, I don't think you're nuts. I don't think you're nuts at all. And I think also, I don't condone, illegal activity or anything that's happening in the United States or anywhere else. But obviously, what's the cover up and the consequences of it to people and to organizations, that's something for the American people to decide through their lawmakers, right? How that is dealt with. I don't think you're crazy. I think that there are very good reasons as well why security has been kept. I mean, just take, for an example, an analogy I like to use, right, about submarines. If Lou Elizondo and Dr. Eric Davis, if they were, say, a submarine propulsion expert and an expert on submarine weaponry, would anybody expect them to be talking openly about, the next generation fleet ballistic missile submarines or the next generation nuclear attack submarines? No, you wouldn't, because you don't want the enemy, the adversaries, to get hold of that. UAP really is the crown jewels. We spoke about China earlier. Xi Jinping has said, openly that, China aims to be by 2049 the preeminent world military, technological, and economic power. Yeah. And it's actually quite coincidental. Eric Davis, when he's talking about the DIRDs, and I covered this, the Defense Intelligence Reference Documents, the 38 documents that were basically a product that ORSAT produced, the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program for the DIA. Eric Davis talks repeatedly about how the United States has to have technology and physics and engineering capabilities approximating those of the Tic Tacs and UFOs, so that by 2050, America can reproduce their technologies. So it's quite coincidental that 2050 or 2049 and 2050 seem to be important years for both America and China.
Yep. Dave?
There's always a lot of speculation and debate between the UFO community and those who are studying it. We may not have the experience and the knowledge that you guys have, but one of the things that we do recognize is a lot of words and conjecture from a lot of scientists, a lot of people who are in the know, so to speak. At what point, Frank, have you been told, or with your knowledge of the people that you've talked to, are we actually going to start seeing some of this proof of what's happening? Proof that we're going to start having these UAPs, recognized as beings from another dimension, another planet, because I think that people are tired of the stories and they're really, really wanting to know when things get really real with true information.
I don't know when. The people that I speak to, or some of the people that I speak to, are absolutely convinced about what they're saying. And people who've been read into certain things. I deliberately don't talk about certain things, repeat certain things that they've told me, certain key words, because that could be attributed back to them. They absolutely believe what they're saying. I think that if you're going to start talking, really what we're talking about is that the nature of the intelligences behind the UAP that we're seeing and their intentions, right? That's what people want to know. I personally don't think that that's going to come out anytime soon. I think for two reasons. One, the United States and her allies are still trying to figure that out. And number two, what they do know, it's a national and security imperative not to actually divulge that at the moment. That's what I believe.
I want to ask you this, because in reality, I'm a nobody, but one thing I do really well is read between the lines, and Bob can attest to that. My question to you regarding this then is this. I think the United States government knows. I think they've been contacted. I think that that's the whole reason why the last 4 years has happened, is because it makes sense to what I am thinking in regards to there was no reason to bring up this topic. And I think the reason why they are not giving any evidence and giving any proof as what the public and many in the public are crying for, outside of grainy videos and blurry videos and black and white F-18 videos, is because they are more afraid of opening up the Pandora's box to the secrets that they are hiding than they are about the current UAP situation. Am I correct on that, in your opinion? Or is it one big giant narrative that the entire public is being played?
Well, look, I think it's a bit of both, okay? Because there are things, I mean, okay, if we look at, for example, things that have been going on, the conspiracy, the cover-up, the ridicule, all that kind of stuff, the nefarious activities, the people basically who've been waxed to keep this quiet, to keep the core secrets quiet. If we look the way that they're going in the, the Gillibrand amendment now, they want to basically, set up a new office to succeed the UAP task force, or to have the UAPTF absorbed into it. And they also want to force the intelligence community and also wider organizations like, the DOE to share. And the DOE actually is a part of the, has an organ which is part of the intelligence community. They want to force them effectively to divulge, anything they know about ye to this office that's going to be set up under the Secretary of Defense and under the National Intelligence. I don't think that all those nefarious activities, if there are people called effectively subpoenaed, that will be behind closed doors, because I don't think it's in their security interest. I don't think anybody wants to have, kind of like a massive Assange, Manning, Snowden meltdown on like a cosmic scale, as I put it in my first paper. That would be, I think, managed behind closed doors. And some people have talked about an amnesty, much as you had in South Africa after apartheid with the Reconciliation Commission there, Peace and Reconciliation Commission. I don't think that America is going to want to hang out that dirty laundry to dry in public, but they do need to. They are making the public aware, and this is what I'm told through sources, because there are coming problems down the road, and they need to have the public aware to some extent of what is going on with UAP intelligences. Will they divulge the full extent of what these intelligences are and what their intentions are? Very hard to say. I mean, how do you explain to the public about the malicious activities of the precognitive sentient phenomena at Skinwalker? How do you explain that one? How do you explain portals? How do you explain trans-dimensional beings? How do you explain time travel? I don't think it's just about hiding the dirty laundry. I really believe that there are perplexing issues facing the government and its intelligence agencies, and they need to have more intelligence analysis done on it. I also believe
hold it right there.
To an extent, they are worried about letting out too much delicate information.
Frank, I'm sorry, I got to go to break here. Science Bob and Friends with Dr. Bob McGwier and Franc Milburn continues after this break on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear.
Okay, so when we come back, let's first cover your analysis of the UAPTF report, as if you didn't know about the NDAA and Gillibrand's amendment. Okay, let's talk about the paper you wrote and your understanding of the UAPTF, and then we're going to slide into the Gillibrand amendment and cover it in more detail, because that was too quick.
We will get into that. I know we're going to get some audience questions as well.
Exactly. But and after that, we'll just do a ton of audience questions, and then I'll cover another topic. And pretty soon, 2.5 hours will be gone. You go, where the hell did that go?
Yeah.
But we want to cover these things so our audience members walk away with new information. And I don't mean new divulgences. I mean an understanding of what we've already said.
Yeah, I don't think I don't go full on. I mean, there obviously has been a conspiracy, but I don't think that withholding of information on the intelligences behind UAP and what their motivations may have been may have been assumed to be. I don't think it's all to do with hiding dirty secrets. So it's to do with protecting sources, protecting methods, protecting platforms. And
I
also
think it's
the public.
I think it's a compilation of a bunch of things, but the original sin, Frank, the original sin is the utter trashing of the Constitution in 1947, where hundreds of people were assaulted and threatened. I mean, that's the original sin. So now you've got, but then it's fear like crazy of the burgeoning power of the Soviet Union and their takeover of all of Eastern Europe happening at the same time. So you get the National Security Act passes, the CIA is born, and a few years later, NSA is born, and so forth and so on. You get this National Intelligence Act, and Harry Truman just set us on this path that we've been on since he was president.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, like people like Klass, he almost reminds me of McCarthy, kind of like, basically canceling people who are intelligent people and scientific people and military people who wanted to push the UFO narrative to the forefront.
He
kind of behaved like
by
McCarthy.
Somebody.
They canceled people.
He was owned by somebody. I don't think I know, and maybe others know, but Philip Klass was owned by somebody and doing their bidding.
Yeah.
Brazelhoff, how you doing tonight? Good to see you. Fabster says Fedora Bob can put any feather in his cap if he wants to.
Hey, you got Fedora John, you also need Fedora Bob.
Looks good on you.
Hey, look. It was John had a great show. The last one was good.
Yeah,
really good.
Tonight's
he's really coming into his own.
John's fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, he's a fascinating character. He is. He's been on our side.
John's been a good friend as well the last few months.
And he's been on our side of the curtain.
Hi, Anonymous Rex. How you doing? Gentlemen, we have about 2 minutes, just over 2 minutes. Gorgeous Carla, how are you? Welcome to the show. Hi, Glenn John McEnroe, the pride of Wimbledon. Kevin, nice to see you come on in. It's a good show tonight. Good show tonight.
It's a little different, but I think it's needed really badly.
Oh, yeah. You're fantastic, Frank. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, man, thank you for having us. It's an honor.
We got 90 seconds, guys.
I'll just follow you up.
Yeah. Good times tonight. Bob, I was I had a paranormal experience at work yesterday.
Wow, let's hear about it.
It was right at the end of the shift. I'm getting my son was at my my office, and I was getting ready to go home, and I was taking his iced tea bottle, going to walk by our lunchroom to go throw it in the recycling bag. And on the way down the hall, there's the bathrooms. So the first bathroom door is the men's room, and I watched the door open and the light turn off. Okay. As the door opens, the light turns off. So I stop waiting for somebody to come out so I don't bounce, do the whole 6 feet thing. Right. And nobody came out of the bathroom. Scared the hell out of me. Big thank you to Nicholas, Science Bob, DB Cooper multiple times, Trust No One times 2, and Dirt Road and Filth for the super chats. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Let's kick off hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight together. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for hanging on out with us here at SOR headquarters in the mountains of British Columbia. We say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Ecophobia. Ecophobia is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Shirky Poo's Newswire. You can check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Yeah, check out our Twitter or TikTok. We just signed up for TikTok. Don't have any videos yet. They'll be coming soon at Spaced Out Radio on TikTok. I always forget that one. It's new. Forgive me. Tonight on Science Bob and Friends, Dr. Bob McGwier is here, retired from Virginia Tech University, hanging out with us on Science Bob and Friends, where we skip the woo, go to the who, what, where, when, why, and how of everything weird and strange in the paranormal realm. Tonight's special guest is author, writer, researcher, Franc Milburn. And gentlemen, we thank you for coming back in here and going with us. And we're going to get to some audience questions here momentarily. But Bob, you wanted to continue on here.
Yeah, sure, Frank. So we went a little quick over 2 topics I wanted to cover more in depth. So first, you wrote an analysis and have had a lot of commentary on the UAPTF report. And there's been a lot of disappointment by those who are, let's call us cognoscenti, but there are upsides to it. And then following that, let's discuss your recent analysis of the Senator Gillibrand amendment, because it is expansive, and I have commentary on it as well, just how unbelievably astounding the requirements in it will be if it is passed. So, Frank, let's go UAPTF, then Gillibrand, and then we'll move to audience questions and then come back to another topic.
Sure. Sorry, what specifically did you want to know about the...
Just give us your analysis of the UAPTF report, something along the lines of what you wrote for BSEE and other commentary you've given, so our audience knows your opinions.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we look at it like sort of in a very basic way or a very basic way, in a nutshell, the UAPTF we know now, which produced this preliminary assessment on UAP in June. We know now that the UAP was, under-resourced in terms of people, that it was, basically zero funded almost, and that, people doing the report effectively in their spare time. So that it wasn't to be considered a serious endeavor at the time, but they pulled this report together. And I'm not denigrating what the people did. I'm saying that the way they were treated by the wider government, maybe, and by the intelligence community, they didn't get the information that they needed. And in any tried to pull together a report of that complexity with the small number of personnel and the resources that they had, and basically the lack of cooperation that they had from the rest of the intelligence community, it's pretty amazing that we got anything at all. I think. A lot of people were very, very unhappy. Report that came out, the assessment. Daniel Miller or Psychop on Twitter, he actually made a very, very good point about it. He said, if you don't feel enamored with the preliminary assessment, just go back and read Blue Book or some of the committee findings from the 1960s when they were talking about UAP UFOs and saying that they basically weren't of any interest at all and weren't a threat to the United States and weren't of scientific interest. So, and then go back and read the preliminary assessment, and actually there's some real nuggets in there. The ones that got to me were when they were talking about not actually the report itself. The key point for me was found in a press release and also a letter by the Deputy Secretary of Defense, where she said, I direct the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security to develop a plan. And then it said, establish procedure and to establish recommendations for securing military test and training ranges. Okay, so if you really read between the lines there, even before we get to more recent proposed legislation, they're saying there that they consider UAP effectively to be a threat to to strategic
and
assets. And that's the key.
And they're going kinetic. And they're going kinetic.
Yeah, and I discussed in my first paper, the second paper, and I discussed with Dr. Jack Sarfati, I discussed with Bob, I discussed with Colonel John Alexander, the godfather of everything weird and spooky at the Pentagon, an expert on directed energy weapons. He ran these kind of projects at the Department of Defense, black projects, white projects. I asked all of these experts effectively, how would you go about, shooting down a UFO effectively? And I cover the capabilities that UAP appear to have in my first paper and the second paper. But I asked this question also as well to an insider that I've been speaking to, someone with a very strong science background. And I just asked out of interest, we've been talking for months now. I said, well, how do you shoot down a UFO? And they said, well, I wouldn't be able to tell you that, because then that would be basically giving everybody the countermeasures to anything that we decided to build.
Exactly. They're always competing outcomes. Always. Exactly. That's constantly the deal. Yeah. So the things that it struck me about the UAPTF are nothing in them before 2004. Not one single thing. And the only thing in there was a brief mention of 145 instances of things they looked at, and one of them was a balloon, and the other 144 they make no characterization of outside of it's not ours, it's nobody we know of, and we don't know what they are. That's like the total conclusion, and they absolutely did not go back to the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, the early 2000s, 2004 on. And it's nuts, especially now that you have, once again, these nuclear weapons, ICBM guys coming out and saying, look, these things came out, turned our weapons on, made them ineffective, shot them down when we were testing from the Vandenberg test range. And you gotta be kidding. These things are not something worth looking into. So yeah, there's a lot left out and unsaid from the UAPTF. But in order to forestall the angry in Congress and the armed services committees and in the intelligence committees, the DNI quickly came out and said, I'll give you another report in 6 months. That's number one. And number two, the Deputy Secretary of Defense said, I'm going to stand up this office inside the Joint Chiefs of, run from the Joint Chiefs of Staff office. But look, we don't need the whatever the follow-on is to be in a policy office. We don't need it to be in a policy office. We need to be in an action element, because we need to do actionable things. So the brilliant part of the Kirsten Gillibrand amendment is it takes away their ability to shove it in a closet of policy and close the door. It's done if that amendment passes, because she lays out specific tasking for the Director of National Intelligence, the intelligence community, and the Pentagon. And so it's just very, very direct. You shall do these things in just most, like, here's a contract and you don't get to sign it because we get to make it, and you're going to do it. And you're going to do the following things, including unclassified public reports at the same frequency as the reports to Congress. So let's go over the Senator Gillibrand stuff and how incredibly important it is. And I want to make one more point, and then I'm going to let you discuss your points about it. She forces a major reconstruction over the entire government of all of our national technical means, and forces them for the first time in United States history for them to combine their take and fuse them together rather than run things in stovepipes. That is going to be very expensive, but it is the only way for us to actually figure out what these UAP are, what they're doing, and how they work. Now you take it away.
Sure. I just want to say a very nice message from Trust No One. Thank you, brother, and thank you for your service too, comrade. I just want to make a quick point before we go to Gillibrand. We've had the recent book, the second Skinwalker book, right? The Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. Now, this whole thing about not the UAPTF and ODNI preliminary assessment, kind of ignoring everything before 2004, but they even ignored stuff in the interim from 2004, because we now know from the skin, we know that the Tic Tac UFO executive report, right, which I think was an 11-page report that George Knapp produced. We now know from the book that that was a June 25, that was a June 2009 report that was written by this Axelrod character that was an awesome product delivered today. And we also know from the book that there was an additional 141-page report delivered by ORSAP, the DIA, which is on the advanced physics analysis, the Tic Tac, and all the transmedium aspects. So, and if you look at those reports, like the Tic Tac executive UFO report, I mean, that states categorically this anomalous aerial vehicle is not in the inventory of the United States or any other government on Earth, right? So if they could be that succinct in 2009, how could they be less succinct 12 years later in June 2021? I don't understand how that works. Did they not have access to those reports, or were they just trying to pretend and thinking, oh, well, they probably thought the book wouldn't come out, so they got wrong footage.
They're stalling. They're stalling.
Yeah, they're stalling, but that's 12 years of stalling. We could have learned so much more in that time.
Yes.
And then the other interesting thing is in my first paper, if we talk about 2004, Eric Davis, in an email that was exclusive in my first paper, he said, I was a deputized advisor to the Nimitz and the Roosevelt investigator under a contract to the DOD. So assuming that that's like ORSAP or ORSAP related, but then who was investigating the Nimitz in 2004? Because that Axelrod report done by ORSAP in June 2009. So you had Air Force personnel who are coming and taking hard drives, tapes, hard drives effectively from ships, from vessels, and from aircraft in the Carrier Strike Group 11. So was there no investigation in 2004? Did they just take these hard drives and stash somewhere? Nobody looked at the analysis of them. Nobody, did an analysis of any of the witness statements, the after action report? No. I mean, what's going on there?
Yes.
Something investigating. Was it the National Air and Space Intelligence Center?
So look, all
sorry, I was just going to say as well.
Keep going. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and then we also know from the Skinwalker book that ORSAP reached out to the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, Special Projects, and we know that they'd been involved in investigating Northern Tier UAP incursions. So we know that the Air Force Office of Special Investigations was involved. So were they investigating in 2004? I mean, that's a whole other history of investigations that we don't really know about.
Exactly.
Bob, we have a question from the audience here.
Yep.
And it's from Nicola, directed to you. Bob, why would China or anyone want a military base on the moon?
Okay, so look, China is immensely patient, and they are looking for the long term. the entire Chinese government, now with an autocratic leader in Xi Jinping, believes that China is the new predominant superpower in the world and the United States is falling into decrepitude. Okay, so they're aiming for the future. And what they're wanting to do is get off the planet. And they know that at the south pole of the moon, there are all sorts of resources that would allow them to build a base that will allow them to launch rockets, etc., to go over the entire solar system, mine asteroids, do all sorts of things that would ensure their ability to do anything they need with any kind of resources they possibly imagine from across the solar system for the next many decades. They are aiming for the long term. They don't believe we have the national will to do what is necessary to compete, whereas they will kill 100 million people by starving them if that's what it takes to build this capability to go out and get all the natural resources they would ever need. And that's number one. And number two, I'm able to say these kind of things because we know the military is involved in their base going to the moon. I'm not guessing. We know it. And Bill Nelson and others have said it out loud. And he is the director of NASA. And he's not saying it just to scare Congress into giving him more money. It's a fact. The People's Liberation Army is heavily involved in their space program, and they are aiming to go to the moon in a big way. It shocked the world when they landed Qingkai 4 on the south pole of the moon and had it rove around. And then they shocked the world even more by landing a rover on Mars and having it. Well, they are aiming for the future. And so the PLA is involved, period.
All right. Sounds like some good answers
Yeah,
there.
you can also stick weapons on the moon as well, and you can't shoot the moon down. You can take out satellites.
Yep. And going down the gravity well to the surface of the Earth is a lot easier from the moon than lifting massive objects from the gravity well of the Earth up and back down. It's much easier to target stuff from the moon.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And maybe there's the other consideration that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to say maybe the Americans and the Chinese and the Russians, they know that there's something on the moon, something else on the moon that's very interesting to them, and whoever gets hold of that gets ahead in the technological game.
Is it about the technology, or is it about the confirmation that these craft, these creatures, wherever they're from, Frank, are coming here and we got to start getting used to it?
Sorry, from the perspective of who, Dave?
Well, let's start with the government and the cover-up perspective.
Sorry, are we still talking about the moon or?
The moon and UAP in general.
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, if you can put detection systems on Bob's, there's a stepping stone to other parts, but you can also put detection systems on the moon for UAP, and also for you put weapon systems there. So whether you want to deal with terrestrials, that the moon is like the high ground, right? So as I said, you can shoot down a satellite, or you can affect a satellite with some kind of kinetic weapon, or with another satellite, or a directed energy weapon. But it's harder to destroy something maybe if it's on the moon as well. The moon is effectively an indestructible satellite, so it would be used for both terrestrials and also against intelligences of UAP should they prove to be indisputably hostile. Just my hypothesis.
But have the UAP been hostile?
And asteroids, let's not forget.
Asteroids, I understand. But have UAP at any point been truly hostile?
Well, if you ask the the local population of Calares, Brazil. If you ask the Brazilian National Intelligence Service and Brazilian Air Force Intelligence, they would say yes, very much so.
All right, let's go to owner's question here. Sorry, Bob, for kind of taking over there.
No, go, please.
All right, owner is asking, does the USA already have a base on the moon, as Haim Ashed discussed?
I do not know.
I do not know.
Be interesting if we knew.
Yep.
All right, let's go to Uriel's question. Frank, can you please elaborate on the theory that multiple timelines are converging, which may cause issues like the Mandela effect, possibly future humans coming back?
Wow. Okay. I can only, offer hypothesis as I've been told it. I've been told that, yes, there are multiple timelines in play, some in which disaster, some where disaster is not averted. I'm told that the current timeline that we're in and the results or the visible effects of the Mandela effect are indicating that we are not averting disaster at the current point. I'm told something very interesting else as well, that little things change in like movie scripts and books, which is indicative of the Mandela effect. The hypothesis that I've been told is that there are multiple future human groups coming back. I can't prove this. I'm told that I believe that the people who are telling me this are knowledgeable about it and know about it. They are certainly serious people, and I have no reason to doubt them. I've vetted them, and I've them through other people. So you have multiple groups coming back. Some are very people, in fact, and come from just after a major cataclysm which affects the Earth, its atmosphere, and all life on Earth. And they effectively are coming back. They have mastered time travel. They come back because they want to prevent cataclysm. And the hypothesis is very along the line of Dr. Michael Masters, future humans, the Greys are us from the future. But in this hypothesis, I'm told the Greys are from a raised up and degraded environment that's affected their evolution, their biology, their ability to reproduce, and that they are coming back for, as I understand it, for a number of reasons. One is to make sure that the cataclysm that affects them happens, because even though they are so messed up, they have an intrinsic survival instinct. And I've also hypothesizing about the fact that cattle mutilations may be a way of synthesizing protein that's needed for a future environment, a future Earth where there isn't enough protein to go around. I've heard it theorized that some abduction experiences might be attributable to future humans wanting to discover which timelines, which bloodlines effectively are going to be able to survive the cataclysm and a difficult future environment.
All right, Frank Milburn, Science Bob. We continue the UAP and alien chat when we return on Spaced Out Radio. Holy hell, Bob. Not only do we have a Chad Smith sighting tonight, we have
Jake Smith.
Jake Smith.
Yes.
I don't want to have to make a Jake Smith t-shirt for the store. I don't even know how I'm going to do that.
You want me to answer owner's question here or on the air?
You can answer it here.
Yeah. Owner, I do not believe there is any evidence from what we have seen from the experiments we have done on the moon, the rocks we've brought back from the moon, etc., that the moon is artificial. Now, that doesn't say the moon hasn't had some hollowing out done and a basis put on the moon. And of course, I'm just going to tell you how Harold Povenmire told Chris Bledsoe that he had seen pictures of bases on the far side of the moon and had watched them being airbrushed out.
Donna Hare also claimed that as well.
And Bovenmeier was a big time scientist at NASA. I mean, you know, I'm going to have an argument about time travel as we begin the next hour, because Frank did an excellent job of kind of summarizing all these different timelines. I'm just going to do a little physics and at a high level, and then we'll move on.
All right, we'll get to Jeremy's question. So is there going to be a mass casualty event in the near future?
I think that is consistent with the way the government is behaving about about the phenomenon. I think it's consistent. That is a likely hypothesis, but I don't think it's the only one.
All right. Phil, is HARP still active? Are they lying when they told us the program ended? Wink, wink.
The U.S. government HARP program ended, but the HARP antennas and the base of operations in Alaska was taken over by a university, and it is still in operation.
Much like the F-117. Retired from the Air Force, but somehow still flying. Renegade One, welcome to the channel. Frank, do you want a beard?
No, I've just been letting it grow a little bit.
Okay, because I do have a Science Bob beard here in the studio.
Hanging on the wall in a baggie.
Yeah, I'm kind of going for the Viking look a bit. Yeah, I was going to say the other interesting aspect about the moon is the remote viewing of the moon.
Oh yeah, by what's his name from Israel, Uri Geller, and Joe McGonigal. They've both of them remote viewed the moon and seen stuff.
Why remote view the moon when you can go further in astral travel? It's much more.
They didn't do astral travel, so they were tasked with saying what's there. They were getting paid to do the work. And Joe McGonigal was apparently unbelievably capable.
Ian McFadden is asking, can you give a couple of examples of the Mandela effect? I have one in my hand. This is an old Ford key to a truck. And the original Ford has always claimed that they have always had, if you look at the Ford logo, let's see if I can bring one up here quickly. Let me just go to images here. Click that one. Share screen. I got to do this quickly. So Ford's logo always claimed to have this little curly Q on the Ford here. However, this key, as much as it's faded out, has a Ford logo with no curly Q on the F. There's a Mandela effect for you. Oh, Gary the Dutchman is here. Gary the Dutchman is here from Mighty Moose Beard Oil. Go to mightymoosebeard.com. If you really want to piss a Dutchman off, what you do is you use promo code SOR 2019 and you get a deal. Dutch people hate giving deals on anything. They want every dollar to themselves. So let's piss Gary off. Let's go to mightymoosebeard.com. Go buy yourself some Mighty Moose Beard Oil. It's getting close to Christmas. It's time to do some shopping. Gary's going to send you a bunch. He's going to grind his teeth because you're giving him a deal. MightyMooseBeard.com. Here we go. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really want to say thank you for that. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read up on Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We're new to TikTok. We're going to be putting up some videos soon, so make sure you check that out and subscribe at Spaced Out Radio there as well. We continue on with Science Bob and Friends. Dr. Bob McGwier comes in to talk science about everything paranormal and supernatural. Tonight, writer, researcher, Franc Milburn is with us tonight. We got a few audience questions. Bob, thank you for joining us. Same as you, Frank.
Oh, really happy to be here, especially to interact with Frank because he's interesting.
For sure. Tony in the UK wants to know.
Same to you guys.
What if the UK gets dragged into the UAP report, Rendlesham, and possibly other occurrences, Frank?
I think I can't, I have to be delicate about how I say this. The UK is going to follow the lead of their American cousins, as the junior partner in the relationship. I think the the UK are very loath, has been seen, to get involved in the UAP issue publicly for the moment. And I think the same goes for other Five Eyes partners. They're going to very much follow the lead of the Americans. As for, earlier cases like, Rendlesham, there's definitely a case for looking at that in a report. You've got all the making fantastic case there. You've got the UAP in the vicinity of American military aircraft, bunkers housing, nuclear weapons, physiological effects, and psychic effects as well happening to the personnel, some of the personnel who responded, and serious long-term deleterious physiological effects happen to them. So I think, that should be in a report somewhere, but whether that would ever be released to the public, I don't know. I think it's still too sensitive.
Look, the UK and other members of the Five Eyes, they have official secrets, and that's number one. And number two, they don't have true freedom of the press. So it's just going to be very hard for them to sneak the stuff out when a reporter can go to prison. And so it's just when they follow, if the Americans go forward and our partners in the world, in the English speaking countries want to follow us, then they will. But I mean, we listened to the person in charge of saying stuff for the defense ministry go before Parliament, and either she lied or they're doing nothing, because she was asked directly in the well of the Parliament, what were they doing? And she said nothing, because we see no threat at all. And so either she lied or they're doing nothing. Okay, so let me go over something that I want to go. Frank did a really good job of in his analytical way discussing all of these weird potentialities if there are many timelines. So let me try to view this from a physicist's perspective about time travel and so forth. We know that some time travel is kind of theoretically possible, but here's the issue. It appears to me to be the case that time travel is one way only. So let's suppose there's some major catastrophe in the future that they want to have some impact on. So they travel backward in time to do something that may change the outcome, and then they're trapped because they cannot go forward. And why do I say that is likely the case? I'm not saying I know it's the case, but I'm going to give you argument that it is likely that's the case. Quantum mechanics and quantum field theory is the most successful theory man has ever devised in predicting things. and our entire technological civilization, including the computers we're looking at, the cameras taking our pictures, the internet that's taking these messages all around the world so we can do it, are all enabled by quantum mechanics and quantum field theory, because we wouldn't have this stuff if this stuff wasn't right. It's the most accurate theory ever devised by man. And what does it say? It says the past is fixed and classical. I can go backward in time because there's only one thing that's behind me, and that's what has already happened. And I cannot go forward in time and be assured that I would land someplace, and it probably violates all sorts of laws, because the future, you can basically predict the probability distribution on what happens in the future. You can't select one of them. When you go forward in time, you're rolling a dice. And if you needed to land on 3 and you land on 6, you're SOL. All you can do is turn around and go backward in time and try again. Now, maybe you could try it enough times you land where you want to, but I doubt you can go forward at all, because I think it would violate major laws of thermodynamics and so forth. I just don't think you can go forward in time because of the probabilistic nature of the way physics works. Backwards, I believe, is possible. Forward, I do not believe is possible. And I can go much further in this, but I won't bore our audience anymore. So I believe that they can come back, but I think that's why there may be a bunch of them here. Just because they've come back, and they might be fighting each other over the outcome, but they can't go back forward. That's my opinion.
I'm told exactly what said to me that time is a one-way trip backwards. The only way that you get back to the future is by living your natural life to get there. I'm told that it's the last desperate kind of effort of a doomed civilization, either because you want to change the cataclysm, or you're so doomed you want to ensure that it happens because you still want to live. But it's literally the very last thing that you attempt to do, because going back and messing around with the timelines, it just gets more and more complicated, and you can have all kinds of unforeseen effects into the future. I'm also told that going back into the recent future, that they're going back into the far past as well, trying to maybe get ahead of other groups who are going back. Maybe one group goes back, then another group goes back to try and leapfrog that, to go further back into the past. It all gets incredibly complicated. But as Bob says, this is what I've been told, and I can't prove it. It's a hypothesis. There's no back to the future as in the movie, unless the only way of moving forward into the future is living your natural life. It's a one-way trip. So imagine the kind of mindset you'd have to have as an operator, to a timeline operator, temporal agent, whatever you want to call them. Go back. I'm leaving my life. I'm leaving everybody that I know, and I'm going back. And it's going to be a one-way trip, and I probably won't live long enough to see anybody again. I mean, that's a pretty hardcore mindset to have.
Yep. And if you go back so far that you won't have toys to do stuff with, what good is it? So I think that there's kind of a technological limit to how far you can go back and have an effect, other than just go back in time and kill people that have an impact on the outcome.
Yeah, I'd agree with you about the technological limit, but maybe if you're trying timelines and affect specific outcomes, you'd want to go back in time to monitor specific, specific individuals, maybe like Galileo, or people who have a major impact on sort of human development and scientific development. Hypothesis.
Yeah. I get it. I get there are multiple ways to go back and have an impact. And if you're hanging around and advising Galileo what to say, or giving Isaac Newton some help, you'd have a big impact.
Yeah, and pretty miserable lifestyle. I mean, you wouldn't be able to find even a decent bathroom.
Okay, question coming in from Alien Pickle. Bob, if you travel in time, if you land where the planet was when you started, because then you're in space because the planet is hauling ass through space, where do you go?
backward in time to the same spot you were physically. I mean, I think that's what we're supposing, is that people are going back in time to a place they're reasonably familiar with.
Jeremy is wondering, so if you go back then, is there a clone of your prior self?
Well, it depends if you go back before you were born or not. It won't be a clone of you, because remember the thing I was claiming about physics. The past is fixed. So if you go back and you see yourself, it's the same self you become if you live into the future. So you're not a clone, you're the same individual, just different ages.
All right, let's continue on with the time travel kind of talk here, because a lot of the speculation that we have heard, especially out of Luis Elizondo and others of his team and knowledge, we don't know where these UAP are coming from. Is it space? Is it from the future? Is it from the past? Is it from different dimensions? Is it from different portals that are opening up? Inner Earth could be from anywhere. Do you think, Frank, that this subject is lacking that much clarity on where these craft and or beings are coming from?
Talk to people like Colonel John Alexander, who actually spent time at Skinwalker, right, on his own, or Nid's got there working for Bob Bigelow. He was actually on, I think, Series 3, Episode 2, the portal at Skinwalker. He and Jack Sarfati don't know many things, but Dr. Jati also agrees, there's a portal there. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Can you just repeat the question?
Just in regards to time travel, do you think that, when we hear that many people like Elizondo and others say they don't really know where these craft or potential beings may be coming from, do you think that the governments of the world, namely the United States, are that vague in understanding where these craft are truly coming from?
I think that they don't maybe know different intelligences are coming from. And I'm told, for example, that, only some UAP that we see are, maybe future human time traveler related. Others could be from other sources. I'm pretty sure that the American government, the British government, Five Eyes governments have an idea where some of these craft are coming from, where some of these beings are coming from, and maybe even what the intentions of some of these are, as I laid out in the time travel hypothesis. Do they know where the craft and intelligence is behind and what their intentions are? No, maybe I don't believe so. I believe it's so complicated. Just taking the Skinwalker example, it's so complicated. How do you account for, cryptids, poltergeists, cattle mutilations, UFOs, beings coming portals, all in one, relatively small area? It's incredibly complex.
Bob, do you want to weigh in on that?
I'm good. I'm
right.
good. Let's not get another question.
All right, Black Dragon, who is a former Marine, happy Veterans Day to you, Black Dragon. Much love and Semper Fi to you for your support of Spaced Out Radio all the time, my friend. What if we enter a different timeline?
So if there are portals, I believe this is kind of what this entails. Is so in the 1980s and 90s, John Archibald Wheeler was one of the greatest physics instructors in the entire country, and he had the most amazing collection of graduate students of any physics professor I know, period. So Everett was his graduate student, and he came up with the many worlds theory. And what we mean by many worlds theory is there's one past, but as you go forward, all the possibilities lay out and actually happen. But each of them follows a different timeline. So you can flip a coin, and heads is one timeline and tails is another timeline, but both those timelines exist. But you as an individual consciousness can only go down one of them, unless you can find a portal that goes from one to the other. And so I think that if we have these portals, this is likely possible. And I think what may be coming around is people are jumping from timeline to timeline. Like, you remember the program Fringe, where they were jumping from one timeline to another one. And so that seems like it might be theoretically possible at some time, given Everett's theories of many worlds is true. And Sean Carroll from Caltech believes that many worlds is true. And it is a way to get around a ugly bunch of stuff in quantum mechanics. So it's possible, but I mean, right now, I don't know how to run an experiment that shows this is true unless I go to some place like Skinwalker Ranch and prove that it's possible, because it actually exists there.
Do you believe, either of you, that we have time travelers walking on our timeline right now?
I think that is a possibility of what we are seeing with the UAP, is what we've been talking about. People are coming back from the future trying to change things. I think Frank has people that are telling him that, and I've thought that for a while, and I have people telling me something like that, and you can hear others talk about it, and Frank has people telling him stuff about it. Frank, you go ahead and comment.
I'm being told that people are being communicated with by future humans, time travelers, protect them, or in knowledge that they've been told that accidents have been prevented, that things have been altered so that they don't have accidents or come to harm because they're necessary to do something. I've been told that. I've been told that they exist amongst us, and you would never know unless they told you, and unless obviously you believed it. Now, the people that are telling me that, I believe they believe it. Again, I can't offer any proof. I find it quite plausible based on the people that I'm talking to and their standing and credibility. These aren't crazy people. They are, highly intelligent people in responsible positions. Not given to flights of fancy. It would be a bit like, I interviewed, Captain Bob Salas earlier this year. I had just a private interview with him, a chat, and he's a really nice guy. And it's like, I can't question his experience. It was seen by other people, and you don't put someone who's delusional in charge of nuclear weapons, do you? So,
No.
It's that kind of credibility that you're dealing with.
And look,
that kind of credibility that you're dealing with.
Even after Salas reported all the problems in the northern tier missile silos in the bases in along the northern tier where they were shutting them down, he continued to have that job. So the Air Force knew he was not crazy, or they would have ripped him out of those silos in a heartbeat. He continued his career there until he retired, even after reporting that UFOs shut the missiles down. Okay, so look, there is a serious theoretical physicist, S. James Gates, who has proven theoretically that he can build a machine and leave it laying around in his laboratory. And if it stays in his laboratory and he comes back 5 years from now, he can send a message to his 5-year-old self, 5-year younger self. So it's a one-way in time transmission. This is a theoretical result, and it's one-way transmission in time is my principal source for believing that time travel is unidirectional. And this guy has won a ton of physics awards, and he is well accepted. And this was published in a peer-reviewed paper in a highly, highly recognized physics journal. So he has shown one-way travel for information. If you can get, and so it seems if you can get one-way travel for information, then it's possible you can figure out how to get one-way travel for matter.
Okay. I want to ask you though, Bob, if you don't mind, because as we got about 3.5 minutes before we have to go to break at the top of the hour, I'm very curious. For me, time travel is one of those subjects that, and I know this is going to sound very woo-ish, okay, and maybe unpopular with the scientific people who are listening to this show, but to me, time travel is one of those topics in the Pandora's box that the United States government doesn't want to open because look, from what they are hiding, whether it's Roswell or whatever other secrets they are hiding in that Pandora's box or what's happening at Skinwalker Ranch, they want it to keep vague. And I think time travel, whether or not you believe people like the 20 and Back Cruise or Andrew Bashago or even Bob Lazar and all of these people who have come out making very fantastic, unprovable claims, I think it opens up the door to every one of those stories to figure out whether or not Andrew Bashaga was a child chrononaut, or there are people who have been able to go through jump rooms to different times or different planets. And, that may sound extremely fictional, but right now, with the way things are going, I do not believe that you can write them and dismiss them off as just pure hokum right now.
So look, I'm telling you, I've given you the name of reputable physicists that shows it's possible to send information back in time. Okay, so I believe that is possible. I actually believe that's possible. The problem with going forward in time is, and traveling faster than the speed of light and a bunch of other things, is you violate causality in the universe, and that is just a way to utter chaos. So I think causality is one of those things that glues the universe together and is the reason there's a direction in the arrow of time, and that you can go back, you can't go forward, you can't go through the universe faster than the speed of light, and because of causality. I just think it's very difficult, and I'm perfectly willing for somebody to write down a theory that I can go read and understand and fiddle around with on a computer and simulate and so forth to see if it works and the predictions come true. But right now, I don't know one. I don't see how it will work, and it violates something that I believe is fundamental to the stability of the universe, which is causality.
Less than a minute. Frank, your thoughts.
I defer to Bob's superior scientific knowledge, but as I said, the Back to the Future, I've been told that no, that it's a one-way trip to the past. The only way you get back to the future is by living. So, the people that I've been speaking to agree with what Bob has just said.
Excellent. Gentlemen, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Science Bob and Friends is here for another 30 minutes on Spaced Out Radio as Dr. Bob McGwier, formerly of Virginia Tech University, is here to discuss the who, what, when, why, and how of everything paranormal, supernatural, and odd. Our special guest tonight, writer, researcher, Franc Milburn. We have him for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. And then it is time, once again, for the unbiased UFO report, where the fedora-wearing John Hudson will give us the latest in the UFO news and everything going on. We'll be back with Spaced Out Radio's final hour right here on the mighty SOR. That's good stuff,
yeah, you
boys.
see, that's
Good
another
stuff.
fascinating thing. I was just going to say it's fascinating when you talk to people who know about science and they give you a hypothesis, and then you talk to somebody else who knows about science and they say the same thing, right? I find that very interesting.
Of course, John Davies is saying that Eric Davis is saying travel to the future is easy, and you can only go backward in time to a single place through a device that you lay down in the past and get to the future. Until Gates has shown this device set down in the past, and they would enable time travel
guys. Chat away.
to the past. And I just don't know. I don't understand how you travel forward in the future. But apparently Eric Davis has told Davies that it's easy. So I just don't. But I don't get it. And so Eric Davis is probably smarter than I am.
I don't know. You're probably better at different things, maybe.
Oh yeah, it's just different. Yeah. I have not made a big name for myself in theoretical physics. I made a big name for myself in other areas. I mean, I don't need to be good in everything. I'd like to know a lot, but I don't want to be a superstar at physics if it takes years of my life to get there, which it would.
Yeah. Well, you're a superstar in other areas, mate. So
I am. I know that. And the places I'm a superstar in, I started 2 companies because of it. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, those are the areas I was good in, and I did good stuff. And those companies are going to do great. But I'm not a theoretical physicist, but I do like to understand it.
yeah, well, I don't think you're a slouch if you get picked up by the think tank that you did and spent so many years there. It's not like they take anybody, is it?
No. It's. I was
You've got to be pretty special to get in there.
I was one of 40 people that got into the hardest think tank in the country to get into.
Yeah, and they came knocking on your door.
They did, indeed. Well, actually, so my professor, who had been there, told them I existed, told them what he thought, why he thought they ought to look at me, and they came and knocked on my door. So it was an inside job.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah. Where do you want to go in the last half hour, Bob?
We can ramble around.
There's some really fascinating stuff in there.
Oh, let's keep going on Gillibrand, because look, that thing is voluminous and it is going to have a huge impact. I think we should go over some stuff that's in there and you give your takes on it.
Okay.
And then we ramble after that for the last few minutes.
What I did. Yeah. What I did, because if you're actually reading the 3 pages of the amendment, it's actually quite difficult to understand. So I cut and pasted different bits out and kind of put them under headings. So otherwise, when you read it, it seems to jump from one point to another. So I made it kind of more easy to understand.
Yeah, but by the time it gets in,
there's some real bombshells in there.
There are, and the forcing of every major sensor system in the United States government arsenal to share information and fuse it in one center, that will be the first time ever, Frank. You already know that. Because I've been arguing for that.
And Congress,
I've been arguing for that. I wrote a white paper about it and so forth.
Yeah, and also it's the way that it should be. It should be, lawmakers calling the shots and saying what's going to happen, rather than people just doing their own thing, right? Which has been part of the problem for far too long. Part of the problem, not just from the point of view of, the cover up and all the bad things have happened, but in terms of we haven't been advancing because all these different programs haven't been talking to each other. So, which is where, again, I think Eldo and Mellon want to go. They want to advance, and all these stovepipes aren't advancing the technology.
They are not, and you got to have all those stovepipe sensors in you got to have all those stovepipe sensors to have an impact on our understanding. We just have to. So the other thing we've got to cover is Ramirez. A CIA officer coming out and saying stuff like he said we need to cover. So
okay, let's go into Ramirez when we get back.
We're gonna do some Gillibrand because it's packed, and Ramirez. Okay. That will eat most of the last half hour, if not all of it.
That'll eat all of it. All right, we got just under a minute to go. It's good times, guys. Good times.
Yeah, my jaw dropped when I saw some of the things.
Say again, Frank, you dropped out.
I was just going to say my jaw dropped when I read some of the amendment, some of the proposed amendment.
Oh, yeah.
All right, boys. A big thank you to all of our super chatters tonight. We really do appreciate it. Thank you to all our new subscribers who are tuning us on in. Chris Moe in Austria, good to see you. Thank you for coming on in. And here we go with the third hour, guys. Horns up. Here comes Bumblefoot.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates across North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Ecophobia. Ecophobia is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as a clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Shirky Poo's Newswire, following us on and with our swag as well. You can check out our social media sites. Why did I forget how to say that? Either way, on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and new on Twitch. TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. I'm getting confused here, Science Bob, as we bring in Science Bob, Dr. Bob McGwier for Science Bob and Friends, and Franc Milburn is our special guest. All right, there's things heating up in Washington, D.C. Bob, take it away.
Yes, really, seriously. So we touched on the Gillibrand Amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act, and we need to go over in more detail some of the more unbelievable aspects. Frank, please tell us your analysis.
Okay, well, I think the way to look at this proposed amendment, because at the moment it's a proposed amendment, is basically in terms of what it tells us, what lawmakers have been told, those who've had access to classified good stuff, right? Okay, so my jaw dropped when I read this, and I had to read it kind of like 3 times. So I picked out a few kind of choice morsels. Now, the first one for me that was absolutely amazing was the intelligence sharing between the intelligence community and this new office that's going to be set up to succeed the UAP task force. It's basically mandating that the share what they know on UAP, and that if they don't, then they're going to have to basically answer to both houses in Congress and provide good reasons as to whether this was due to restrictions from classifications or due to other reasons, and for other reasons bureaucratic interference and obviously I think Congress have had the bit between their teeth now, and they want to see this through, and they don't want anything standing in their way. Now, one very interesting thing here is they're talking about line organizations being able to rapidly respond to and conduct field investigations of incidents, right? And you'll see where I'm going with this. Okay. They talk about, if you read between the lines, they say personal equipment and resources. And they said to ensure that the designated organization have available adequate personnel with requisite equipment, transportation, and other necessary to respond rapidly to incidents or patterns or observations of UAP phenomena. Okay. And then also as well, they want an update in a proposed report, annual report, an update on any efforts to capture or exploit discovered unidentified aerial phenomena. So what does this tell us? They're talking about resources, okay? So as I was chatting with Previn earlier tonight, they're not talking about a couple of guys getting a hire car to go and look at a cornfield and a crop circle with maybe a daily allowance for Burger King, Dunkin' Donuts, and some coffee, and maybe an overnight stay in a motel. Okay, this is mandated. Right? This would be mandated by the Secretary of Defense And the Director of National Intelligence not going to get bothered in daily food allowances. This is crash retrieval stuff that we're talking here. Okay.
Basically,
we're talking
Frank,
aircraft.
basically it's the end of the unacknowledged SAPs.
Yeah, exactly. That is the end of the unacknowledged SAP. And when, specifically the key point, an update on any efforts to capture or exploit discovered unidentified phenomena. Okay. There's the other gem. They're talking about, yes. And then there's another line under the science plan. It says to provide the foundation for potential future investments to such advanced characteristics and performance. Right. So what is that? Is that the Manhattan Project 2 that we've been talking about, that Elizondo and Mellor seem to want? I wrote about extensively in my second paper. That would seem to be so. I think it's very interesting as well that this new office that they're terming the Anomaly Surveillance and Resolution Office is going to be either under the Secretary of Defense, or it's going to be under the Secretary of Defense and the Director of National Intelligence. I think that's very, very significant. That means that you get buy-in from both, plus having the input of like the DOE, NOAA, NASA. I think that's all hugely, hugely significant. It's tying together all the different disparate parts of government who don't want to talk to each other normally, who stovepipe, and forcing them all to play together like nice people. It's incredibly significant. And that's in contrast to, what happened with the UAPTF when, they were stonewalled by some people. Bob, you got anything to say on that? Well, I look for a next nugget.
Yeah. No. Look. We're going to cover John Ramirez in a minute, but let me just give you a little preview. The National Reconnaissance Office builds assets for doing reconnaissance. They don't do the analysis and capture, etc. Those are done by other elements. NGA is in charge of imagery. National Security Agency is charge of communications intelligence and SIGINT. DIA is in charge of MASINT. That's every other kind of sensor you can think of is a defense intelligence agency. Why do we always go to the wrong agency with our FOIA? People need to understand who owns these stovepipes, because these stovepipes are where all the information exists. And if you want information, you've got to go into these stovepipes. The thing that Gillibrand is doing is ending the separation in the stovepipes in an office to get information about UAP. It's a big deal, Frank.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, she's talking about in this amendment, all the scientific theories that they want to understand, the propulsion, the aerodynamics, the signatures, the structures, material sensors, countermeasures. They talk about weaponry, the power generation. Okay. But the question I'm asking is, ORSAP was looking at these, right? 11, 12 years ago. So with the DIRDs and also with, the two reports that they did for the Nimitz, God knows how many other reports they did as well, Roosevelt report. So why is it taking 12 years to get here, right? Which is a great question. The other thing that I thought was extremely interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the one thing that's here that has never been true before, if she gets her way, everyday, ordinary university scientists will be allowed to play. And not only that, she mandates where they come from. So Avi Loeb's organization is going to get to have 2 representatives in there to help spread the work amongst university scientists. And look, having been at the Hume Center for many, many years, over a decade, I can tell you, you can carve out parts of classified projects that are unclassified so that scientists and engineering people can work on it, even though they don't have a security clearance. I know it because I did it for over a decade. And with working for the former director of science and technology for the CIA, who put me in the position. So this is the kind of thing that needs to happen. You need to open up the area of coverage of who gets to look at this problem to broader scientists. If you have stuff you don't want them told, then don't tell them that part of the problem, but give them enough to work on the problem. That's what she's mandating.
Yeah, I was going to say hugely significant as well. There's there's several paragraphs just on like nukes and the threat to nukes, and they specifically mention nuclear powered vessels, submarines, and that's they've also talked about UAP, transmedium vehicles. She's mandating that they want to be looking at everything that's in space, in the atmosphere, flying over land, on land, at the surface, subsurface. It's really quite incredible. Also, in terms of the threat. Evaluating the threat that such incidents present to the United States, talking UAP, identification of potential air-based or other threats posed by UAP to the national security of the United States, right? So they're taking this very, very
well. But look, a major source of threat to the United States of America of UAP is not the UAP. The major source of threat to the United States of America from UAP is China figures out how they work and they come and whack our ass. That is a threat.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's very hard to say something is definitely a threat. You understand the intent behind it. But if, for example, we were to give further credence to the future human hypothesis, I mean, me as myself, former intelligence officer, if I see a UAP, if I see a craft with red stars on the side flying over like my position or flying over the nuclear assets that I'm in charge of, I'm going to be extremely concerned, right? And the public would be extremely concerned if they were Russian, Chinese, North Korean, whatever. I see, these craft either shutting down nukes, interfering with nukes, or initiating, launch sequence in some cases. In 1964, okay, it wasn't a live nuke; it was a ballistic missile without a warhead, but destroying that. That to me, even in the best case scenario, to me, that is indicative of an interaction with a vastly superior technology, which is indicative of a very unequal relationship in our favor, or rather not in favor. So any way you cut it, that is not an advantageous position for human beings to be in.
Okay, let me
humble
ask
opinion.
a question. That's great input. So look, let's answer John's question. Tell us what you know about Zodiac, and if you know anything about Zodiac that you can talk about. Does the UK have Zodiac retrieval teams?
Such operation or terminology, and if I did, I would propose to discuss it.
Exactly, same here. Just I give the same answer.
I don't know.
Davis
The truth is, I don't know.
What I know, I don't know. So that I'm not saying it.
If you ask me for an opinion, I would say very likely. If you look at, just to look at the language here, where they're talking about, resources basically for, they're calling it investigations, but what they really mean are crash retrievals, right, in this amendment. We're not talking about driving to or flying to, a military airport or the nearest regional airfield and getting a vehicle and driving to see a crop circle. If you're investigating, a UAP or a downed UAP, it might be stuck in the side of a mountain. It might be, in a deep lake in the middle of the mountains, in the middle of nowhere. It might be somewhere where there aren't roads that you can get to. You're talking, you might have to build a road to actually get the UAP that you've retrieved. You have to have digging equipment, drilling equipment, bulldozers. You might have to have river crossing equipment because it's too big to go on rail tracks, right? And it's too big to go on roads, and it can't be carried by heavy lift helicopters, or it can't be disassembled to be put inside a large transport aircraft, right? So to deal with that kind of problem, and the military who deal with these kind of problems, they like operational plans. They like to have all the resources. They like to know so that this isn't just something that you pick up the phone and start trying to cobble together in after the event. You want to have all these assets allocated as part of an op plan, so you know all your logistics, all your assets and detachments, so that you can go and carry out this type of operation. And that's what they're talking about in the read between the lines. Humble opinion.
It is indeed. Look, the thing our audience and others ought to understand, and they need to understand, is there is no entity on Earth except the United States of America that can command the kind of logistics you're talking about. It is why we are, for at least for now, the most powerful military on earth. It's not because we have the best weapons. It's because we can do the logistics better than anyone else on the planet. And I mean by a long amount.
And a global footprint.
Yes. Okay. Before we get too far off, we got to talk about John Ramirez. So tell us what you think of John Ramirez's paper and the things he's covered.
Yeah, well, that I thought was like, is he legit? And he's asking people to ask if he's legit. But before I even had to pop, a buddy of mine who's at the and who's interested in me actually sent me both the YouTube podcast and a copy of the of his basically aid to the intelligence community. So I got that question answered without having to answer it. I think it's fascinating. I think the presentation was excellent. I think he's done a huge service to the UFO community in terms of spelling out exactly what are the different parts of the American intelligence community, what they do, and even more importantly, probably, who does what and who to ask about which type of information for FOIA, understanding exactly what each part of the intelligence community does, so that you can FOIA requests. I think someone like John Greenwald, whose work I like very, very much, is going to have a field day with that.
Yes, I agree. I think John Greenwald is the person I was thinking about that this paper would help the most. And I'm really glad that John took the time to do it. So Ramirez worked for in and around Ted Hume. And Ted Hume was DS&T at the CIA. And Ted Hume founded the center that I worked at before I retired. John Ramirez and I have not had a chance to talk, but I can't wait for the opportunity to talk to him given that connection. And I just thought his presentation was excellent. And I know from what he said and others have said, the reason he did this was he wanted to prove to others in DOD and the intelligence community that this could be talked about and your life wasn't ruined. That's number one. And number two, he wanted to see how far he could push the envelope before his master's in security at the Central Intelligence Agency, where he was a CIA officer for decades, would tell him he had to redact. So he wanted to find how far he could push the envelope before he got a black pen marking his paper. And he was really shocked, and frankly, so am I, by how much he got approved by the security office at the CIA to let him publish.
Yeah, I mean, I really actually want to have a chat with the guy. I was just thinking it'd be really great if we all spoke to him together. That'd be fantastic. I think he's a fascinating guy.
Yeah,
you should definitely have him on. In my humble opinion, you should definitely have him on your show and talk to him. You guys.
Dave, give us some questions.
How is this new gentleman able to talk about what he is talking about without violating his NDA?
He went to the CIA and got approval. He stated that explicitly. He said he has done pre-publication approval for everything he has said. He got permission.
Yeah, and if you look a lot of it, I mean, if you look at a lot of his presentation, both the YouTube, the visual, and also the PDF, I mean, a lot of that is you can glean from open source as well.
So how do we validate what Ramirez is saying? How do we know that this is just not another plant or another spook out there?
So every single thing he said about the U.S. intelligence community and how it's constructed, I knew before I ever saw the report.
I mean, he's not the only spook. No. Bob and I talk to other spooks. He's not the only spook, right?
Yeah. Now, some of the incidents he talks about in there that he got approval to report on, they seem legitimate enough to me. And given that he was, in fact, a CIA officer, he would be in deep trouble if he did not go get pre-publication approval. And he said the purpose of his doing this was to see how far he could push the envelope and get that approval.
Okay.
Yeah. My reading of the guy without meeting him, you know, as sincere as a spook could be, really. I was very actually surprised. Some of the things he came out with, talking about like reptilians and stuff like that. I was like, hang on, like, am I hearing this right?
Well,
you know, a welcome addition.
And he's an experiencer.
But that doesn't make sense to
Yeah.
me as we got 3 minutes to go. And what doesn't make sense is he's coming out with all of these new topics of discussion that are blowing our minds as he jumps into the forefront, you know, and is near the top of the pack just at a snap of a finger. And yet here we have Elizondo, granted, different position, different security clearance and everything, who, as Bim Jim in our chat room says, Elizondo has hinted that he would be killed if he told some of the things that he knows about this subject. So how come one is good and one can't talk?
Okay, so Ramirez is talking basically about things that he knows of his own personal knowledge, that he was involved outside of his duties, and he is not required to keep those a secret because he never signed a non-disclosure agreement to keep them secret. If you don't have an NDA, you are not bound by a fictitious NDA or virtual NDA. Now, but he chose to write all of it down and send it to his masters, and they approved it to be released. All I can tell you is what the guy told us, and it has the ring of truth to me. And Elizondo is in a different position. That's because he was way up high in the Pentagon, and the Pentagon is not the CIA.
Yeah, I'd concur with that. And I mean, you know, Ramirez isn't talking about operations, right? He's not talking about capabilities. He's not talking about sources and methods. He's not talking about things that he's been involved with when he was at CIA.
And he's refused to talk about those and said that explicitly.
Gentlemen, we got 90 seconds left. Final words for you. Science Bob, take it away.
Frank, it was really great to have you on, share your knowledge and capabilities and your expertise and experience. What are you working on next?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm just trying to get my head around everything that's been happened recently. I have actually got a paper that I'm thinking about in the pipeline, another one. I'm not sure if it's going to be a paper or a book, but I'm going to continue along that vein, maybe write it with somebody interesting as well. But I've got all my notes. I'm basically at the stage of research, and I'm putting down lots of notes. And I've been doing that, you know, since the last kind of 6 months. But I just want to say it's been a real honor to be here, guys. Bob, it's always great. Dave, it was really great honor to be on.
Great meeting you.
And I want to say thanks to, you know, all a big shout out to all my friends and family, and to all the vets, current service members from, you know, UK, US, Canada, Commonwealth, Five Eyes, NATO, and their families, and stay safe. And if you are having problems, then reach out to somebody.
Yes,
absolutely. We love our veterans around here. Happy Remembrance Day and Veterans Day in the United States. And we really do appreciate each and every one of you who are tuning us in. Remember, we always are a safe place for veterans listening to this show. We love you, and thank you for the sacrifices you all have made. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, as we say goodnight to Bob and Frank, we'll say hello and good evening to the fedora-wearing John Hudson and the unbiased UFO report. We got Shirky Poo's news, the thought of the Dave, and more on Spaced Out Radio next. Great show, guys.
I told you, Frank, it goes like a bat out of hell, doesn't it?
I couldn't believe it. It was like 10 minutes, or 5 minutes, and half an hour's just gone ding.
It's people get so scared about 2.5 hours. I never feel like I got through everything I wanted to.
It went so fast every time. It was just like half an hour gone, half an hour gone.
Yeah. I mean, you know, carry on reasonable conversation about interesting topics. And, you know, you could go on for hours on any one of these topics.
Yeah.
We covered a lot.
Yeah. No, I know it was a really great conversation, really great flow, great questions as well. Yeah, I had a really good time, guys. I want to say thanks very much.
And thank you, Frank, and be well, brother. And you know, I'm always in your corner and thinking about you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. I'll say
Yep.
good night, guys. Thank you.
Good night.
All right. Take care, guys.
Good night, Dave.
Good night, Science Bob. All right. There we go. It's a hell of a show right there. Eddie Haskell, how you doing, buddy? Excalibur, good to see you. Who else we got? Mr. Too Much Information. And there he is, Grandmaster, otherwise known as The Gong Show around here. Abel Abner, welcome to our channel. Thank you so much. Jeffrey Green. Joan Dillon, welcome. Good morning to you. Jason Pearl, what's happening? Great knowledge tonight from you, Bim Jim. Thank you. Walter Sobchak is here. The good Ukrainian kid, they call him back in the day. Walter Sobchak. Yes, Remembrance Day. Right there. Remember to remove, if you're wearing a poppy, remember to remove it after 11 o'clock. In the morning, that is. Is Walter Bosley here? I didn't see him. Just waiting on the fedora wearing John Hudson to join us. I don't know where Mr. Cowley is. I feel a little bit better today. My arm is still bugging me, but that's okay. Not as bad as yesterday. The gorgeous and talented Purpose and Grace. Making sure she's taking care of me right there. Low Pro, how you doing, buddy? I'd like to see Mr. Cowley tonight. Got to give him a good show. Hi, Mama Susan. Why what? Our man, Black Dragon, the Marine. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, man. Yourself?
I'm great. I'm great.
That was cool.
I'm going to sleep in tomorrow a little bit. Then we're going to go pay my respects. And then probably head out in the forest for a bit. Go look for some Sasquatch.
What are you going to do, Dave, if one of these days you go up there and there's just like three of them sitting around a campfire and they're like, oh, hey, what's up? Have a seat.
That'll be hopefully this weekend.
There you go. There you go.
All right, here we go, everyone. Thank you to everyone on the Super Chats. We really appreciate it tonight. And let's rock. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Soon on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It's time once again for the fedora-wearing John Hudson and the unbiased UFO Report. All right, Mr. John Hudson is back for the unbiased UFO Report. And, you know, John, sometimes, you know, we don't like some of these stories that come out, and we're going to get to a very sad story right off the bat here involving a friend of this show in Erica Lukes and her ex-husband, Chris Marks. I mean, this has got very ugly, and we all want to support Erica in this time of need. You know, I don't know how else to put it, but just a horrible story coming out of Utah.
Yeah, a very rough story, and you know, unfortunately, you know, we've seen a couple stories like this come up, and so you know, I think this is just a reminder that you know, once our community gets big enough, statistically, we're going to get all sorts of different people into here, and you know, some of these people need more help than others, and you know, we've all seen people getting pushed to the edge in you know, debates and fighting matches and so forth. And you know, I mean, you know, this is someone who's you know, clearly you know, not doing well. And so it's a really unfortunate thing. But I think it's something that you know we should all be cognizant of, that you know, there could be other people in our community that seem very normal to us online, but behind the scenes, their lives are, you know, in a really bad place, and you never know, you know, who might need help and who might not. And I think, you know, we all got to do a good job of, you know, of reaching out to each other for that very reason, Dave.
All right. So let's explain what happened here. And it was recently put out on Fox News in Utah out of Salt Lake City, where Erica Lukes, who's was married to Chris Marks, they are now in the midst of getting a divorce after some domestic violence here.
Yes, and I want to add that essentially a lot of us saw this relationship evolve. Right, we saw it when they first got together. We saw, you know, how she talked about him, and how, I mean, she had, you know, she really was a very vocal hero of his. You know, like I mean, she was very, very, very good at talking about, you know, what he was doing and how proud she was of him, and you know, she really defended him in a big way. And so to have it go from that to this is just it's really rough. But essentially, it's, you know, it's twofold, and essentially there was actually you know, domestic violence that occurred, at least, you know, allegedly, and so that has to get investigated. And then he also was on record saying a lot of things that you probably shouldn't be talking about, you know, and in ways that you probably shouldn't be talking about. And so he's got an uphill legal battle in front of him, that's for sure.
You know, I debated whether or not we should run this story, and it was debated between our entire SOR team. But you know what? We do have to bring information to the table, and sometimes news isn't pretty. And we want to show our support for Erica Lukes, who has been on this show a number of times over the years, and she's always talked highly of us. We've always talked highly of her. Nobody should have to go through any sort of domestic violence whatsoever. Now, Chris Marks, her ex-husband, he is a former security guard at Skinwalker Ranch. He's been very vocal over his treatment at Skinwalker Ranch and the way the guards were treated. He is a full-time soldier with the National Guard in Utah. He has not been reprimanded by the National Guard as of yet. One of the other issues, and I know we debated whether we were going to touch on this, but he was also caught saying some very flagrant type threats to the President of the United States, as well as people who support the president as well, which is never good. And that was caught on tape and caught on online postings as well. So, I mean, this is just a very ugly scene. And I really hope that all of us here at Spaced Out Radio can send some much needed love and healing over to Erica Lukes, who's gone through a very difficult situation. But you know what? I commend her. And I hope that everybody who is suffering currently from some sort of domestic abuse, whether it's physical, verbal, whatever it may be, to find that strength to go to the police and get help. And if the police aren't helping, keep fighting. Go to a doctor, go to a hospital, go to your family, go to your friends, because we need that strength. And you don't have to do it all alone. And let's just hope that, you know, if all of the alleged charges against Chris Marks are true, let's hope that the law deals with him in a very proper fashion.
Yeah, and I also want to say that I applaud her for the passion and energy she went into this. You know, a lot of us, you know, we've been hurt. We go into new situations with a lot of visible scarring, and I just hope everyone puts as much energy into getting into things as she did, and as much energy getting out to things as she did.
Yes, and please, once again, we encourage anybody who is going through this type of domestic situation to keep fighting and get help. There's always help out there. All right, let's move on to story number 2, John, where Luis Elizondo. Okay, so he was recently in the United Kingdom, and he was interviewed by GQ UK. And I'm telling you, I don't know if it's if you got this opinion or not, but it really seems like they're trying to make him into the UFO sex symbol here.
Yes, there are, and the funny thing is that they obviously couldn't get their hands on a bunch of new pics, so they used a lot of the same pics of Elizondo that we've all seen, but they put them in this order and they added some other things, and yeah, I mean, they're definitely, you know, suggesting that he should be wearing some pretty expensive suits and you know, catching the right angles, and now what's interesting is that, you know, they did basically write a pretty good article. I mean, I would say about the first half of it is a kind of a nice historical background on the Nimitz case, and then it actually goes into an interview of Elizondo, and it's just a back and forth, you know, Q&A for the rest of the doc, and it's a long article. And you know, if you were at all new to this scene, this would be a fantastic primer to this one aspect of it. But if you've been around for a while, you know, you're not really going to learn anything new, but it you know, there are some different angles that are kind of presented. Lou always drops something a little bit new in each interview he does, but for the most part, you know, it was a really good primer. But it was just very funny to see, you know, Elizondo, you know, in all these, like, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, you expected to see him up there with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon in like, you know, some, like, you know, 3-suit pose. It was pretty funny.
Well, the purpose of the article, though, I think does put a humanizing look on Lou. And for so long, he has been rigid, stiff, very militaristic. And yet, here he is showing off some ham hocks, you know, and looking good.
Yep. No, and you know, it's you know, I don't know. I think that, you know, you should basically do your best no matter what the circumstances are. And if you end up, you know, making a little bit of fun of yourself, it's all good. If you end up looking good, hey, that's all good as well. I mean, it's like, you know, I think it presented Lou in a very good light. And I agree with you. I think it was very humanizing.
What was discussed in that article?
Say again?
What was discussed in that article?
It was basically, it wasn't, that's the one problem when you read a lot of this stuff is that, it's pretty hard to find new information, but they basically, went over a lot of the same stuff, when did you get involved in ATIP? What were your responsibilities? What have you seen that, that had this impact on you? I mean, it was a good interview, but it was unfortunately just, it didn't actually glean anything dramatically new if you're well read. But like I said, if you're just a couple years into this, it's a nicely done article, and Lou is is his nice open self, and half the article is this Q&A, so it's the bulk of nearly the bulk of the article itself.
Very cool. Now, you wanted to get into another topic tonight regarding our future in space.
Yeah, so I knew there was a good chance this might happen, and I was trying to be really optimistic, and it wasn't the most exciting event in the world. First off, I was hoping that everyone would be on a panel at the same time. That's not how it worked. Each person was interviewed separately. So you only had one person on stage with the guy who was interviewing, and so they just basically went through. But they were aware of each other, and they were aware of each other ordering meetings. They would make references to each other. But basically, what it came down to is they actually tried. They tried to ask some good questions. One of the things that they asked of DNI Haynes was, they said, can you speak to the trade? This is how he phrased it. Can you speak to the trade craft of identifying these objects and actually taking action against them, and really kind of put her on the spot? And there's a clip of it that is floating around online, you can see. And so basically I applaud them for actually asking a lot of questions that could have resulted in some very, very interesting dialogue. Unfortunately, just because of this venue, I mean, the DNI went into this, this lengthy, answer that actually didn't answer anything at all. I mean, there was a lot of dancing going on. It was too official. It was too pretty. It was too, it wasn't what I was hoping. It wasn't what I was hoping it would be. But it's certainly, certainly very, and a lot of people did great job of grabbing clips of it. And you can find clips of it all over Twitter, but there was lots of opportunities for it to do something really cool, but that's not what happened. It was just kind of, I don't know. I was kind of bummed. I was just kind of, I don't know what I was looking for, but I was really hoping that there would be some, really groundbreaking stuff. Now, I will say this, that at one point they asked both the NASA guy and the DNI, what's something that your organization does that the public doesn't know about that would really impress them? And of course, DNI Haynes, basically said, I can't tell you anything that's cool because all the cool stuff we do is, I can't tell you about. But the NASA guy said that they were only a couple months away from announcing a new Earth protection system, where essentially, as you have an inbound, an inbound asteroid or something inbound for Earth that could do damage, the larger ones that can do damage often have satellites of their own. They have smaller pieces that are rotating around them as they fly, and so they figured out a way to essentially just blow up the largest satellite going around the object, and they believe that just by blowing that up, you get very little debris, but that, if they're done early enough, will cause enough of a gravitational change that the object will then veer in a different direction and not hit Earth. And so they're basically, I think they said they're about 6 months from doing a full scale test. And so that's the most positive thing I've heard about actual, planetary protection from inbound objects. I think that's the first time I've ever seen anyone with a real plan.
Jeff Bezos, during this, was also asked the alien question.
Yeah, and it was funny. He basically he really just blew it off. He basically started laughing and said, "What? with how big this universe is and all these things that you really think it's going to be, were they going to be the only ones? Give me a break. He basically just like totally blew it off like that. And then they pushed him a little bit, and he's like, well, he goes, but so yeah, so I have no doubt that they exist, but I haven't seen any convincing evidence that they've actually like reached Earth yet, like that, then he kind of, pulled it back. But it was, this was just a very polished event. And I don't think there was a lot of people talking, off the cuff, just, letting anything fly loose as I was kind of hoping. And sometimes you get that with multiple people in the same panel, because they'll start playing off each other, but because they did each person individually, they really controlled that environment really, really well.
Very true. Very true. John, it's always a pleasure to have you on here for the Unbiased UFO Report. We will continue on here with the show. And John, we'll talk to you in a couple seconds. Let's get to Shirky Poo's news. News is always changing, which is why we turn to Shirky Poo in the time of need for the weird, strange news. How would you like to be fishing and all of a sudden be, I don't know, swarmed and killed by piranha? Yeah, that's what happened to a 30-year-old man who is out on a day enjoying the fishing with two friends in southwestern Brazil when a swarm of bees attacked the three. All three rushed into the water. Two made it back to shore when they realized that the lake was swarming with piranhas. Now you got killer bees up front, above ground. You got piranha in the water. I'm sure there's caiman around somewhere. Not a very good time here for these gentlemen. Well, unfortunately, one man was killed. He was never found, eaten by the piranhas. Firemen found his body 4 meters from shore. They said that the fish had torn open several parts of his body and the right side of his face. An initial investigation suggested that he had drowned rather than died from wounds inflicted by the fish. Another reason not to go into water, people. Piranhas, sharks, anacondas in that river, caimans, alligators. Just not cool. Not cool at all. Moving on, a cattle farmer in Brazil said a steer that escaped slaughter and ended up on a water slide at a neighboring club will now be kept as a pet. Carlos Miguel Sarante said the 2-year-old steer escaped from his cattle farm in Nova Granada and made its way to the neighboring Indie Club de Campo, where the animal ended up deciding, hey, that water slide looks pretty fun. I'm going to give this a go and slide into the pool. Exactly what the cow did. The steer slid halfway down the slide, though, before coming to a stop. Video from the scene shows a man roping the steer and leading it the rest of the way down the slide and into the water. Sarante said the bovine's adventure had made it into a local celebrity. He said the steer had been scheduled to be slaughtered, but now, due to his events and love of water slides, the cow is alive. I looked to see if he had any injuries, but he's fine. Said he'll stay here because of the people. The people want to know where he is. He's been in the attraction. Everyone wants to know, and we want to take him to the club. Let's party with this cow. This seems like a good time. All right. Astronomers have discovered gamma rays emanating from ultra-fast outflows, otherwise known as UFOs, the other kind, coming from several nearby galaxies for the first time. A discovery that could shed light on how the Milky Way acted in its early days. A group of researchers led by those at Clemson University used data from the Large Area Telescope on board NASA's Fermi Gamma Ray Space Telescope and stacking technique to combine weak signals to find the gamma rays from these UFOs. Not to be confused with extraterrestrials, UFOs are powerful winds that come from supermassive black holes that could play a role in how large the black hole itself grows, as well as the host galaxy. Very cool. Moving on. Here's an interesting one for us bearded wonders. Nearly half of Americans believe bearded men are more responsible with their money. This unusual appearance-based finding comes straight from a new Lending Tree personal finance survey. More than 2,000 Americans were surveyed between October 15th and October 20th, 2021. 48% say they think men with beards and or mustaches are way better with money than when compared to clean-shaven men. I would trust a mustache over a beard, though. I really would. Look at Uncle Dale. All right. Ufology Tarot, inspired by the history of UFOs, has been made. The project is the brainchild of a group of cultured fine folks, graphic designer Miguel Romero, together with Greg Bishop, Joshua Cutchin, Susan Demeter, and David Metcalf. Lots of former guests on this show who are all within liminal worlds, fringe studies, and arcane knowledge. And here they are making their own UFO tarot cards. How cool is that? Let's quickly get to the thought of the Dave. All right, let's do this thing. What's something odd that grates your nerves? Jonathan, 5 days a week. Let's make it 3 days for work. Carol, people leaving perishables on the shelf instead of back in the freezer or fridge. Gail hates leaf blowers. It's a sound from hell, according to her. Danny, people who drive like a-holes. Jonathan, women who leave the toilet seat down. So selfish. Just a joke. Relax. Krista, people who don't believe in ghosts and all things unseen. It's so much grating, but it's very interesting. All right. Let's go to it. Thank you to everyone participating. John, Science Bob, Frank Milburn, Shirky Poo, and the rest of you. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. In our chat rooms tonight, YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Facebook, Spreaker, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. I come up with these stupid sayings in my head. You know, here's Quest right at the end of the night, Roy Washington. You know, he's like, rake us home, dear Captain. Hell yeah. And I can just see him like coming up with all these, Captain, that's the ham and eggs at the end of the show. There you go. Bastard. Let's do this thing.
Totally.
Come on, you son of a bitch. Get her done. Rock it
Oh,
up,
man.
Captain. You son of a bitch. You know, can totally see him doing that.
Oh, man, absolutely.
God, that's good stuff, Quest. Every time. First and foremost, Chad, I'm not giving you shit, Chad, but Far Flung is not a troll. He comes in here every now and again to listen. It's just a basic disagreement. It's quite okay, and he's doing nothing wrong. He's allowed to have an opinion, just like you are, just like I am, man. All right, it's all good. It's all good. We're allowed to talk about this stuff, and that's just good conversation. All right, so everything cool. We're all good, and go from there. All right. Yeah. Old Super Quest there. Fuck you, Captain. Get her done, you son of a bitch. You know, I can just see it. Oh, yeah. Friggin' awesome. Friggin' awesome. Love it. I don't know why. I just get pumped up over that each and every time.
No, it's always nice to get that consistent support, you know?
Oh, yeah. You look tired tonight, buddy.
Yeah, no, just with my wife staying over at her aunt's place, at her sister's place. It's just, you know, I got my daughter with me, and you know, it's just like, you know, crazy hours, and you know.
Oh, dude, you're on double duty here for a little bit.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, although it's nice. It's you know, like you know, it's weird. Like when you go away somewhere, it's one thing, but when people ditch you, it's kind of like, hey, you know, like it's just me and my dog. You know, it's like kind of feels like kind of.
I hear you, Ben.
So it's nice when like other people show up. You know, because my wife's actually going to go to it's actually leaving tomorrow for Maui. So she's going to be
nice.
in Maui for. It turned out like just super lucky. Like this old friend of hers who she's known forever, like, you know, call her up to see what she was doing. They were like about to leave for Maui, and they actually had enough miles for another ticket. And so basically Holly just like is taking off in the morning and just going to spend like, you know, 3-4 days in Maui and come back. So so it'll be nice. It'll be good. It'll be good adventure for her.
Very cool.
It was always hard when I used to travel so much that, like, you know, every once in a while I could take her with me. I took her to Barcelona. I took her to Paris. But, you know, I mean, I was flying to, you know, for a while I was seeing like a new country every month. And, you know, the whole time just like leaving Holly, you know, back here. And it's like, you know, so I like it when she actually gets to travel a little bit.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Unlike people like you, Dave, who I don't think you've ever been. Wait, what's the furthest you've gone?
I've never been out of North America. The furthest east I've been is the airport at Newark, New Jersey. I've flown into a lot of the cities I've just flown into, like Chicago. Chicago is beautiful from the air.
Chicago O'Hare has the best sandwich shop anywhere, and some of the best shoe shine people. Chicago O'Hare. Huge airport though.
Reagan International I've flown into. That was kind of a cool airport. A big airport, the Houston George Bush Airport. That was big.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I haven't been very many places.
Someday you should fix this.
One day.
Although at this point, I think you got a better chance of being able to fly a ship. So, you know, who wouldn't trade that for? Yeah, exactly. So, Dave, when someone like GQ does, I mean, I guess they did an interview of him, but like someone like GQ, they can do like a spread on you without notifying you, right? Like if they just like they just investigate you themselves, and they just, you know, I'm just wondering like how much like notice Lou gets when this stuff comes out. Because
he would have known about it. A magazine like GQ, that would have been
months in planning and
well in advance. I think it's great. I do.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a great article. It was very balanced. It was very fair. It was, you know, it was, like I said, it was a fantastic primer for, you know, for anyone, you know, just trying to get into this, or just, you know, who's, you know, in any way, shape, or form, just a little bit green, you know. And you know, that's the other problem we have too, is that we now have so many different groups from so many different levels of knowledge that want to actually come in and start getting, you know, aware of what's going on. And depending on where they are, I mean, it's going to be a very, to me, two of the most interesting challenges I think we're going to face over the next, you know, 10-15 years is specialized psychiatric and you know, both psychiatric and just, you know, therapist based training specifically for people that have been, abducted and people that have had, significant contact, right? I think that's all going to be a whole new world of mental health care. It's going to take a lot of people. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot of people. But there's things like that I think are going to really kind of grow, and we're going to see. I don't know. It's just going to be interesting to see how this all evolves over the next couple of years. As more and more people, like, I was talking to someone the other day about trying to do like videos for like high school students, that want to get like, more aware of what's going on and so forth, and just creating the material for each subgroup, that would then have to come into this, based on their own, ability and interest into doing it at all. Getting people aware of this is just going to be very, very challenging.
Oh, I think you're right. I think you're right. Happy birthday to Spooky Morales.
Yes, happy birthday.
49 years old. Doesn't look a day over 50.
What is age?
Mm-hmm. Spooky Morales, everybody. So what's happening, John? How long's your wife gone for?
Right now, she comes back Sunday.
Well, that's a nice little getaway for her.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, no, it's just like 4 nights or something like that, So
what do Daddy and Scarlett got planned?
Well, I don't know yet. I got to kind of look around and see what's like around here. There's like a lot of stuff to do, but like you definitely have to check and see like what hours are and which places are still are still open and so forth. But we'll probably go up hiking up in we have a place called Deer Hollow. It's only about 30 minutes away, 25 minutes away, and it's all just there's a farm and there's lots of hiking, and it's just kind of a beautiful area.
Do you geocache?
No, I've never gotten into that. I've never.
Oh, dude, your daughter will love it.
Oh, she probably would.
Oh, dude, my kid loves geocaching.
Yeah, she probably would. Yeah, no, it's just like the whole like opening presents kind of feeling.
Absolutely. Just what I do is I go around the house for things that I don't want anymore, like small trinkets and stuff, and I put them in a backpack, and then because you could trade items. So if Colby wants something, I will trade out an item that we don't want or need in the house anymore, and like for a while there, he was really into Hot Wheels. So I'd bring some stuff, from what we're doing, and I would, if there was a Hot Wheel or something in one of the caches, I would grab that for him and put something back in there. Yeah, man. Just download it right to your phone.
Yeah, no, I should check that out. She would probably get a huge kick out of that.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Probably get a huge kick out of that.
Oh, yeah, dude. And you know what the best part about with kids, how bored kids can get, with doing something? They don't get bored of the geocaching because there's always every cache is a new adventure, right? Especially,
it amazes me that there are this many caches out there. It must have taken a while to build up.
Oh, dude,
I got
geocaches hidden right around my house. I got 5 of them.
I wonder. I wonder if any of the clandestine operations have tried to take advantage of this system to actually pass information.
Maybe.
That's funny. That's like it's one thing a lot of people don't know. Like you look at like the whole onion network thing that that basically the dark net's based off of, and most people don't realize that was actually designed by the Office of Naval Research, and they gave it to open source, and it became the dark web. And so everyone thinks the dark web is like this really safe place to do all this criminal stuff, and it's like, well, the Office of Naval Intelligence actually designed it, and like just out of the goodness of their hearts, gave it to the public to build the dark net over. And you really think that that's going to be anonymous? It just absolutely cracks me up. Absolutely cracks me up.
Well, what city are you in again?
Me?
Yeah.
Sunnyvale.
Sorry?
Sunnyvale.
Sunnyvale?
Yep. I basically grew up in Mountain View, which is right next door. My wife actually grew up in Sunnyvale, not too far from where we live now, and so I've lived in Sunnyvale since 2000 basically.
Really? Come on.
It was a crazy place to grow up because we had we have NASA Ames, and right next to NASA Ames it was Moffett Field Naval Air Base, and then right next to that was a secret base that we didn't even know the name of it until it got declassified, and that became Onizuka Air Force Base. And this is also where the Blue Cube was, and the Blue Cube was the operational headquarters of the NRO. And so the Blue Cube was this really cool, big, giant white square building with no windows, and you had to be an armed escort inside of it and so forth. And it was definitely a crazy place to definitely kind of a crazy place to grow up. It was definitely very
just
different.
so you know, within a 10-mile radius of Sunnyvale, there are 2,326 geocaches.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you text me your postal code or your zip code, I'll see how many are close by your house.
Oh, that is freaking hilarious. And so but this has been going on for a long time, right?
Yeah, it's been going on for almost 20 years, if not a little bit longer.
Yeah, so it probably wasn't this fun in the beginning, but now that it's like built up,
Yeah.
And that'll eventually spread to other planets.
Quickly send me your zip code.
Yep. Yeah, no, I just did.
All right, hold on a second. Let's see here. Closest one is let's see here. What's this one here? Ovis Canadensis Californiana. What's this one here?
Crazy.
Yeah. Looks like it's in a tree overlooking a valley.
Nutty.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, no, there's actually a lot in California. We have these weird like stone walls. They're really short and they're really old, and like no one has any idea who built them. No one has any idea how long they've been there. People make all these like silly assumptions about the fact that they were built by these people 400 years. It's like, no, these are really, really old walls. You never think of California as having anything like that, but I think every single place in the world has really, really old stuff if you just know where to look.
Yeah. By the way, it's $29.99 American for a full year premium membership of geocaching.
That's cool.
Yeah, dude.
That's very, very cool. No, I definitely look into that. I think you get a huge kick out of that.
Oh, dude. You two will have a blast.
Oh, I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah.
The one thing that just as a side note back to all this is that one thing that I think is a little frustrating too is that because there's so many moving parts and because so many of us don't know how things work, you have something like Valet and his uh, co-author, I forget the gentleman's name, their paper on the metamaterials has now gone through peer review. It's waiting publication, and so it should be published in 2, maybe 3 months or something like that. You have something like that. You have, and then you have something like these amendments that are being made, right? And you see one amendment, then you see another amendment, and then you see another amendment, and the lack of knowledge most of us have as to how those language negotiations work in the Senate and the House, how the languages get merged, what the likelihood is of certain language surviving, makes it incredibly hard for any of us to get any guidance or clue as to what might happen. And we get all excited about this one amendment, and we really have no idea what the chances are of that amendment doing well, And to me, it's the same sort of thing where essentially there's these little pockets of information where we're waiting for something. Most people don't understand how scientific papers are published. They don't understand that how long the peer review process can take. Even once you get peer review, why do you have to wait? Sometimes a couple months before publication. And so, to me, it's interesting, but it's frustrating to see some of these big data points coming out. And this amendment that Senator Gillibrand wrote, it's beautiful. I mean, it really is. It's beautiful, and I so hope it just goes in as is. But the truth of the matter is that I can't get too excited about it because I have no insight into what the chances are of her amendment trumping the other two that have already showed up.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Which sucks because I've been really pleased with how excited everyone's gotten about it. I've been really pleased with how much everyone's read it. It was really fun listening to Bob and Frank, talking about it and hearing the excitement in their voice. There's some, really, I hadn't even thought about the idea that it would I don't know. I don't know if it's really going to be the end of USAPs, but the fact that it would make USAPs so much harder to exist that's a pretty fundamental change in our security structure. I don't know. It's and when are we going to start getting stuff out of your country, Dave?
No idea. I don't think you will.
It's weird. It's really, really weird.
Tell me about it. We'd like to.
And I really wonder, I think you were asking Frank about this earlier. Is other countries standing down? How many of them are standing down because we've asked them to, and how many of them are standing down just because they're playing their bets and they're just thinking, well, we'll let the Americans, trip and fall over this, and we'll wait until they've learned something, and then we'll release what we have. How much of it is by choice by those countries because they want to protect their anonymity, or they want to protect their whatever, or how much of it is really because the United States has asked them, hey, please keep this quiet?
I wouldn't say it's a please keep this quiet. I would say, hey, remember that military agreement we have? We're working on some stuff here. Shut the hell up.
Yeah. I mean, I do know that part of the agreement in some South American countries is we have full permission to basically go in and remove crashed situations. And I still really think that that's the DOE, because the thing is that you try to build an organization that can be anywhere on the planet in a couple hours, can show up with a bunch of very highly skilled people in extremely protective clothing with extremely protective protocols, where they can tell people it's a nuclear leak to keep people away, they are often tasked with like bringing back ICBMs that have fallen out of objects. So they have heavy lift equipment. This is a ready-built organization that was really built for DOE recovery of items fallen in the field. But that organization would be already purpose-built to recover UFO material. And they wouldn't even have to change anything. They wouldn't have to train anyone new. They would just basically use that same, and no other organization has a unit like that. There's no other organization in the world has to make the kind of, service level agreements with whoever that, we can be anywhere in the world within, I don't know what it is, like 3 hours or something like that, with a recovery team that's capable of recovering a cracked open nuclear device. So, I mean, they're already designed to handle all sorts of ugly, chemical and electromagnetic, and I mean, they're already geared to handle a whole bunch of horrible stuff because they're in the nuclear recovery business, and that would place everything under the DOE, which would then keep it away from everything else. I don't know. I really can't. I really don't see any other vehicle for that kind of response team. Because I mean, some of the reports you read, something goes down, and within, easily within 24 hours, an American team is showing up and they're cordoning the place off and they take everything away. And that usually happens fast, very, very fast.
Well, according to Jody Cook from the North American Dogman Project, he has had people tell him point blank that that there is a recovery team, so to speak, for crash retrievals and these certain types of ETs that have come out, especially down in Brazil.
Right.
Because Brazil seems to be a real hotbed for these landings and stuff.
It's interesting. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
But we don't know how much of these hotspots are due to what's currently there, or is it because of what used to be there, or is it just because of the physical location on the planet? Proximity to the equator, proximity to a meridian, proximity to whatever.
Yeah, no, very understandable.
Very difficult to. Yeah, I mean, I'm very hopeful for the a fair amount of disclosure is going to end up being driven by South America. There's a lot of really, really smart people down there that are working really hard against a lot of opposition. But it'll definitely be very, very interesting to. I just want to see some other country try to take a position, to start pushing on their own, and not just. I mean, like, God, man, what the UK is doing. Oh, if I was a Brit, I'd be so mad. I'd be so mad. To me, it's worse than what the Canadians are doing, because the Canadians just aren't saying anything at all. They're just zipped, right? But the Brits are actually saying, "Oh, it's nothing to worry about, and if it was, trust us, we can handle it." And it's totally just like, just like, it's just, it just blows my mind what's going on. It's absolutely.
I think it blows a lot of people's minds.
But there's got to be some country out there that, is well run and just, decides to just, dump what they have. And they may not have much, but if they have something, it would certainly be interesting.
Yeah, that's the problem. We don't know.
I wanted to comment on an interesting phenomenon I'm seeing on UFO Twitter. So you have people that get upset because the conversations might get too harsh or might get too personal. And so they leave UFO Twitter and they go into a Discord channel. And the Discord channel is more private and it's more secluded and it's more remote. And so people feel actually more free to talk badly about people, and they feel more free to be more aggressive. And then they get aggressive on these channels, and then people screenshot them and take them over to Twitter, and they post them on Twitter saying, "Look at this Discord channel. Look how mean they are." And it's like, and it's funny because all the people in that Discord channel left that Discord channel because they thought UFO Twitter was mean. And what's actually happened is they go into these little channels and then they start abusing each other more because there's less of them and there's no one looking at them. And so they end up being more aggressive. And it's like, I've seen several occasions where people are just taking screenshots of their Discord channel where all the crap's going on and they start posting it in UFO Twitter to get a rise out of people. And it's just like, wow. Talk about desperate for news, right?
We will never have a Discord channel.
I can't handle anymore. I'm on 2 right now, and it's so overwhelming sometimes. I mean, one of them is not. One of them is, like I said, it's like 12 people. That one's beautiful. That one, I love that one so much. That one's just like, I love that one. It's so calm and interesting.
I just don't. There's 2 reasons why. Number one, the Discord channel app absolutely sucks. And
it might be better now though, Dave. It could have improved.
Well, it was really shitty at the time.
Oh, I believe you.
And like you could never log out of it. And number 2, I would feel personally responsible to make time that I don't have to attend the Discord channel. And, even with moderators, shit gets out of hand fast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Absolutely. It's just, and everyone that's blowing up, it's so because it's just because they care, right? I mean, the pissed off ones they're pissed off because they don't like how it's going. That's reasonable. I can relate to that,
Mm-hmm.
And why are they angry? Because they care. The worst thing you want to see is apathetic people who are just like, oh, whatever. I don't care what's going on. At least if they're angry, it's like it shows that they have putting some energy into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I must admit, the other thing I think is going to be a really interesting challenge, and I'd love to hear anyone on the chat that has an opinion on this, is that to me, like, there's a lot of people in the world that the reason why they're not well read on any of this stuff isn't because they don't know what's going on. They do. They're watching it. They're seeing it going on all over the place. They just don't care. They just, from their point of view, there's no chance that anything that they're going to learn in that is going to change their day. It's going to change their day-to-day life. They're still going to have to go to work. They're still going to have to do laundry. And so it's none of it's stuff that they're going to be able to get their hands on. None of it's stuff that they're going to be able to do anything with. It's just information about something that they don't have any contact with, and they don't have any, it's not part of their lives. And so they just, it's not that they don't know it's there. It's that they choose not to listen to it. They choose not to read about it because to them, it's just, it doesn't impact their personal life. And in a lot of cases, they're right. I mean, now that may change in the future. It's possible it's been impacting their life and they don't remember. But, ultimately, I think a lot of people, just, it seems to me a lot of the significant others of a lot of people in this community, we'll have that situation where like the one person's like really into it and the other person just like, it doesn't impact my day-to-day life. So why do I care about it? Right. Whereas if it's someone like you who's had personal experiences and you want answers, right, that's a whole different ballgame,
Very true. Very true, bud. That's where we're going. Thurston Howell III. How you doing, buddy? How's Lovey? Give us an update. Mm-hmm. John, you're looking tired, man.
Yeah. Like I said,
bad dude.
Sleep schedule is getting all out of whack. What's funny is actually, I think I got enough sleep today, but just.
Does your daughter let you nap?
Yeah. I mean, I try not to do that, but she has let me, sleep for a little bit, but I mean, she's only 6, so it's like,
Hi,
It's,
gorgeous P. Swagger. How are you?
but part of this too is that my I'm having trouble with my contacts, so my eyes are really dry. So that's honestly making it a lot worse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Are we still talking about Corinth in the chat room? Corinth had some family issues that he had to deal with. He had a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that he couldn't make time for what we were doing anymore. So that's why he ended up having to leave. And that's the politically correct answer that I'm going to use.
Great name though.
Oh yeah, I miss Corinth.
Corinth is just Corinth, the booking guy, just had a good sound to it.
Yeah.
Definitely had a good sound to it.
Johnny, why don't you head off to bed, dude? We're almost done here anyways.
Yeah, I think I probably will sign off. But hey, thanks everyone for sticking around and listening. And doesn't really people have any questions.
Bim Jim says it correctly here. When new people look at ufology, what do they see? People waving their out of focus phones at the sky and yelling, "Orbs, orbs, orbs." Those aren't orbs. Very true.
Oh man, the orb thing is so challenging. I completely avoided orbs for the longest time because I was like, I can't do anything with that. I suppose if I saw one myself, but like seeing pictures of them, like I can't measure anything on that. Like there's no data. There's like nothing I can do with that, and you can't tell if they're real or not. And if they really are real, then oh my god, that's a big freaking deal, freaking orb. But like if there's just some like bad side effect of a camera, then and I think there are people out there taking pictures of good orbs that are also taking pictures of bad orbs, and they don't even realize it.
Oh yeah.
You've seen orbs, right, Dave?
Oh yeah.
The same color or multiple colors?
Different colors at times.
So you've seen quite a lot of them then.
Back in the day when there was some really cool stuff happening with me, yeah. Yeah.
And did you ever feel threatened by them?
No. I was
Did
very
you ever have any
by them.
Sorry, say again?
I was very curious by them.
Did you ever get any sense of intent?
No.
Like to me, like in most cases, they just seem to be observing.
Yeah. We were in a real cool one. We were in a 6-person meditation one time, and I don't meditate very well. And we were in my friend's living room, and there was a bedroom door right behind the living room. And I was kind of facing that bedroom door, and I watched an orangish red orb, the size of a golf ball, come about 3 feet off the ground. It kind of came from the doorway left, came this way, stopped right in the middle of the doorway, and headed this way towards my friend. And she was in deep meditation. And I watched that orb get within about 4 inches of her elbow. And I said, "Hey, you might want to watch this." And she kind of startled, turned. And as she startled, it disappeared, blanked out.
Whoa.
That was pretty cool.
So there's so many things like I want to be able to measure on those orbs. Like there's so much data that I want to gather that nobody has. It's if that is really a three-dimensional object that's projecting photons.
I have
like
no idea.
what does it eat? Like what is it? How does it sustain itself? Like Ugh! Frustrating beyond. And like, what do all the colors mean?
Yeah.
And like, I mean, in one cases, I think it was the Bledsoes were actually warned like which colors to avoid. I guess there were certain colors of orbs that they were told. I don't remember what I think it was like a red. I don't want. I shouldn't say it because I don't remember exactly which it was. But they were actually warned, like, some orbs aren't. Because I mean, there's those blue meanie things over at Skinwalker Ranch that were doing horrible things to animals. So it's a good thing you never felt threatened by them.
Nope, never felt threatened. All right, John, we're going to call it the night here, buddy.
Yep.
I want to say a big thank you to Nicola, Bob, DB Cooper, Phil, Trust No One ×2, Jeremy, actually Trust ×3, and Chad Smith and Science Bob for the amazing super chats tonight. You guys were absolutely
look
amazing.
at my shirt. Cyberdyne Industries, Skynet Division.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice. Big thank you to all of our new subscribers. We're encroaching on 13,800. We really appreciate that. We just keep growing every day, man. There's like 5 or 6 new additions to that, sometimes more, sometimes less, but we really appreciate it. And a big thank you to everybody who's following us on social media. You can do so on Twitter and TikTok at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. My personal handles on Twitter and Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. We'd appreciate you following us. You can join our Facebook group, Spaced Out Radio, if you're on Facebook. And that's our social media for the day. And tomorrow night on the show, Debbie Ziegelmeyer will be here. We're talking alien colonization of Earth's waterways. What does that mean?
Ooh.
USOs, people. USOs tomorrow night with Debbie Ziegelmeyer. And big thank you. I'll be doing the Dave 101 tomorrow as well on experiencers. So you guys all take care. We're going to have a great day tomorrow as well. If you're a veteran, thank you so much for your service. And we really appreciate everything that you did and the sacrifices you made personally for our freedoms. We appreciate that. And lest we forget, people, take care. Good night.